have now?
I'm a brokerage. We operate on. We don't sell sneakers out of the back of the office. We broker deals, and we get paid on it.
Fair to.
Cool. Now I feel a lot more comfortable. How about you guys? This is my 14th year of doing this. And my name is Justin DiGiulio. So welcome you guys to my TED Talk this morning. Anybody know what ABC stands for? Always be closing. You know where it comes from? In the real estate context. It comes from the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, which is Glengarry Glen Ross is a 1992 movie. Alan Arkin, Al Pacino. It's an all-star cast, John Lemon, based off a 1984 play about real estate sales. If you haven't watched it, I would advise on watching it. Let me just, what does always be closing mean in the real estate context? Is that a salesperson who is always closing deals? The way that I look at always be closing is not as somebody who's always closing deals, but someone who's always looking for an angle, looking for a way to be closing a deal. So at every point in the interaction, they're gathering information. They're thinking, what angle can I take to make a deal happen here? Okay. That's how after this meeting, I want you guys to be thinking. So from the angle of always be closing, we're going to be looking at a deal throughout the lifetime of a deal, from the very beginning until the actual close. And hopefully that'll take us 2.5 hours. All right. Like chess, you don't move a few pieces on the board not thinking about it. Every action that you take on the chessboard, you're planning a few steps ahead and you're analyzing the actions of the other person. So when you are working with your clients, you need to be thinking 2-3 steps ahead and not just about what you were saying and what you were doing, but you need to be analyzing what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're behaving. This is Nicole Williams. You missed the introduction round. For those of you guys who don't know me, as I said, I started 14 years ago, or 13 and a half years ago. I struggled quite a bit in the beginning of being a real estate agent. It's about 3 or 4 months and I only closed 2 half deals, meaning I was the second agent on the deal. I kind of did a follow-up showing, which is basically me just unlocking the door a couple of times because somebody needed to reseed the unit. And I was not making very much money. At month 5 or 6 or so, it started to click for me. I closed my first deal where I pocketed like $2,700, which isn't a great deal of money, but it was the first time that I had gotten a paycheck where I said, this makes sense. I could see how this could turn into something long-term. From the point where it clicked, things sped up exponentially for me. My first full year in business, I closed 68 deals. What's that? First year.
Sure.
Yes. But I just told you I only closed 2 deals, in my first 2 months or 4 months. So it really started slow, but then when it took off, it really took off. The next year I closed 101 deals. And I didn't believe that. I've been telling people I closed 100 deals my second year. I actually went through and counted all of my deals from that year last night. So I'm giving you the perspective of somebody who's closed hundreds of deals a year. I want to share the tips that I have with you guys. I want to discuss the hardships and how I overcame them. And I want to get you guys to that level. All right. But it's not something you can just part-time your way into. Right. It's not something that you can just inactively, you can't play chess, not really think about it and win the game. Okay. You might win every once in a while when you're playing against some 7 and 8 year olds, but you're not going to win when it comes to a professional level. And this is a business where if you put your time and energy and your mind into it, you can operate on the professional level. There's no ceiling. There's literally no barrier of entry. You just take a 77-hour course, you pass the state exam, and you have the possibility to make lots of money. Okay, and I could tell you, God bless you, I could tell you, you can make a lot of money in this business. All right. Let's see. Nope. You guys should all have my contact information. I know all the Oxford guys have my contact information, but if you guys ever want to sit down and talk about the hardships or the difficulties that you're going through, I'd be happy to, at a microscopic level, look at your business, discuss it, and try to get you through that. So when we talk about closing in real estate terms, people usually think of two things. Sorry about that. They think of the actual closing where you're sitting at the table with the contracts that are there to sign, or they're thinking about the actual process of convincing somebody to make a move and sign the contract prior to the closing table. In actuality, that's not really what closing is. Closing is everything up until that point. Once you're sitting at that table, it's basically a done deal. All right. There's a fraction of a decimal of a percentage of deals that may not go through at the closing table. But the reality is when you're at the closing table, the deal's done. When you are closing someone, it's not a pickup line at a bar. It's not something you can say on the spot where somebody's going to make a decision. It's not a one-liner. It's much deeper. Closing doesn't start when you're in the listing with your client. It starts at the very beginning, and possibly earlier. Just like when you're looking for a mate, first impressions matter. First impressions stick. Let's see. Sorry, guys, you got to bear with me while I read through some of this. This is the first time we've done this particular meeting, all right? We're going to discuss each part of the deal, from prospecting leads to managing your leads and clients, the power of the phone call, the in-person meeting, being on the showing. Going to discuss the importance of time. And then we're going to talk about negotiating the broker's fee. So those of you guys who come to my Thursday meetings, a lot of this is going to look pretty familiar. You've been through a lot of these topics. I think negotiating the broker fee is the one topic that you guys are always asking me about. And we will get there, I promise you. Lucy and I talked about it briefly last night, but I think everything that I said to you was a home run, right? It made it like right on the spot. All right. So we're going to get there. That'll be the last couple of slides, but I think you guys will appreciate how we get there. We're going to start with prospecting leads. We're going to start with inbound interest. So this is how you get people to contact you. Okay. There's outbound, where you're calling people to create business for yourself. And there's inbound, where people are contacting you because they want to work with you, or because they have to work with you. First, we'll talk about lead capture programs. Can anybody think of a lead capture program? Is that a program that automatically generates you leads? Okay. So several of you in this room are signed up. OpCity is a good one. OpCity is a website that you can sign up for, that when they generate leads and they send it out to the users. And when a lead comes through, your phone rings. First person to pick it up gets the lead. It's free, and you pay a referral fee, right? It's like StreetEasy or Zillow Premier Agent, where you buy the zip code, and when there are leads for that zip code, your phone rings. Except OpCity is free, you pay a referral fee. Premier Agent, you have to pay a monthly fee. Next up is listing apartments and homes for sale and for rent. So obviously, when you have listings up, people are, if it's a decent deal, people are going to call you, they're going to text you, and they're going to email you. It's going to be an inbound lead. However, as a new agent, it's really difficult to get listings online. You have to have those connections. Now, the upper hand that agents have in the Manhattan market are open listings, open rental listings. Next up is social media. How can we use social media to generate leads? What are some social media platforms? Guys, this has got to be interactive for this to work, all right? I need you guys speaking, so I know you're paying attention, and you guys need to engage so that you do actually pay attention. What are some social media platforms that you could use? Facebook. And all right, hold on. Let's stop on Facebook. How could you use Facebook to generate leads? The marketplace. So you can list on the marketplace. All right. What else can you do on Facebook? You can boost what? So you can create an ad and you can boost it, which, hold on, let's talk about boosting an ad on Facebook. When you boost an ad, so when you put anything on Facebook, there's an algorithm and it sends it out to a certain percentage of your friends. If those people engage, then it gets sent out to more, right? If those people engage, it'll go out to even more. That's how something can go viral. But obviously to go viral, there has to be some level of engagement. So when you boost something, it simply ups that initial number, right? So that rather going out to 5% of your friend group, it might go out to 2,000 random people and 15% of your friend group, right? So that's what boosting does. What else can we do on Facebook? You join a group, but simply existing in a group isn't going to help you get any inbound interest. What's that? So posting what you have, another way to list apartments within the group. So you brought up boosting a post. Boosting a post is not my favorite way to spend money on Facebook, because when I boost a post, I know it's going out to random people. So if you download the Facebook Ads Manager, which is free to download, it's a little complex, but you can just watch a YouTube video, 4 minutes, you'll be an expert. Facebook Ads Manager allows you to target your ads. So you could, rather than just boost and have somebody in Kentucky see your 2-bedroom apartment for $4,800 in Midtown, you could overlay a 2-mile radius in New York City and display it to only those people. So targeting ads is a really good idea. And if you're going to spend money on boosting, I would advise you take 15 minutes, learn how to use the ads manager, and use the ads manager. What else can we do on Facebook? Advertise yourself as an agent. In the groups. In the groups. I think you could just create a post in the group saying, I'm an agent. I'd be happy to help anybody out. Beware, there's lots of scams. If anybody has any questions, feel free to forward me whatever you're looking at. I'd be happy to help out. That would a post like that would probably create some inbound interest, right? Especially if you think about like Gypsy Housing Facebook group, what's happening? It's a lot of people posting their bad experiences, and then a gazillion real estate agents just bombarding the group with posts. Most of those posts are not in anyone's interest, right? So they're not getting any interaction. Now, if you were to post something like that, hey, I'm happy to help you out. Hey, if you guys see scams, feel free to run it by me. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I'd give you some direction. Maybe you get a couple of likes just from somebody saying, oh, that was a nice breath of fresh air, right? But now that's going to be on the top because it's starting to get some likes, it's getting some interaction. More people are going to see it. You'd be surprised that you might start getting some message requests. So when you post in Facebook, Decho, we get inquiries via the marketplace message center, right? But you also see those message requests, which are people who are coming in not from a listing. They're not contacting the person who's listing it. They're actually looking up my profile, right? And they're saying, I'm going to send this guy a message, except I'm not friends with them. So it goes to the message request. But that's another way that you have inbound interest. And you have to be checking those message requests, not just thinking they're all spam, because in this business, when your phone rings and there's no number, you basically have to answer. What else on Facebook, guys? Anything else you can think of? What other platforms are there? TikTok. Let's talk about TikTok. How could you create inbound interest on TikTok? Advertising your video. So what happens if we go and we take a 60-second tour of a $3,200 studio in Midtown East? And somebody in Kentucky sees that. Are they going to like it or interact with it in any way? Okay, why not? It doesn't apply to them, right? They're not going to engage with it. How could we create content on TikTok that somebody might then engage with? Asking questions. Okay, so you could post the same apartment, and you could say, take a guess at the price of this Midtown Manhattan studio apartment, and you'll start to get some interaction, because people, the thing about TikTok is most of what you're looking at are just random videos, right? So if there's an intriguing question, people will engage, right? But that's better than just posting a mediocre apartment, right? If this was car sales and you were advertising cars, you wouldn't take a 60-second video of a 2014 Honda Civic with some rust on it, right? You might post a 60-second video of a 2023 Ferrari, and people will look at it and go, wow, and like it, but nobody's going to interact or like with your 2014 Honda Civic. It's just not exciting, right? But if you had a secret feature or a hidden fact that people could comment on with that old car, it would make sense. So same thing goes for apartments. If you have a $10,000 penthouse, people will like it just because it's pretty, right? But if you have a mediocre apartment, what's the pull? What's the engagement? What's the call to action? And that's why TikTok and Facebook are two completely different animals, right? You can't use them the same way. You need to understand how to use the different platforms differently. What other platforms are there? Instagram. What could you post? Could you just post 7 pictures of this Midtown East studio and expect that to go viral or to get any comments or interest? So how are you going to use Instagram? Stories. What are you putting on the story?
Crowd for showing, like
The crowd for okay. So if you go to the East Village, basically May 1st until August 31st, and you walk up and down the streets, you will see lines of people waiting to get into low-priced apartments. You could create some stories. You could even create some posts that would probably get people just sending emojis with the jaw drop, because they're like, holy crap, is this really what it's like? That would be something that would be engaging, right? What could you create a post of?
Maybe put some open house.
So the thing about Instagram is I like to follow the 80-20 rule, or more realistically these days, the 90-10 rule. So 90% of it would be about you and maybe your life as a real estate agent, if you can find a way to weave your life into it. But people who you're connected with on Instagram are following you because they like you, right? Not because you're a real estate agent. So, and then you sprinkle in 10% real estate content, real estate exclusively content, right? So your 90% it could be a story of your lunch, and it could say lunch of a real estate agent, right? But you're only going to put about 10% that's explicitly real estate only, right? You've got to be putting up more content that's not related, that people are interested in. Now on Instagram, and actually any of the social media platforms, what I see a lot of novice agents doing is they start a new profile for their real estate business. Now, anybody who's been in this business for a decade plus knows that this business is their life. When their friends think of them, they think of them as a real estate agent, okay? Now, if you create a new page on Instagram just to post some mediocre apartments, or maybe you ask some listing agents who have the $10 million penthouses if you can share their listings on your social media, and you create a page with stunning, very pretty apartments, how many followers do you have? 0. You have 0. So the likeliness of your post getting any engagement with 0 or 12 followers, very low. So it's a real steep uphill battle creating a new social media account. So my advice is, especially with Instagram, is you start from your own profile, incorporating some real estate stuff, right? Now, if you're afraid to tell your friends and family and connections that you're in real estate, and you're not soliciting, right? You're not messaging them saying, hey, you should move out of your house, you should sell your home, right? You should sell it with me. By the way, I've been doing this 2 weeks, but I'll get you top dollar, okay? You're not doing that. But my advice is that you use your own network. right? And if you're afraid to do so, this may not be the career for you. Okay, if you're afraid of what people think about what you're doing, it's probably definitely not the career for you. Okay, so my advice is you use your existing audience and grow from there. And those posts will get more engagement. And again, you're not going to annoy them with real estate related content because it's 90% about you. What other platforms are there? Twitter. Okay, Twitter's a tough one because it's mostly text. How would you utilize Twitter?
To your point, not very much.
Yeah, so the way that I would utilize Twitter is I would look at I would follow a whole bunch of real estate related accounts. I'd follow city accounts and I'd look at the posts. And if there was some way that I could make an engaging comment, I'd make that comment and then people will like and share that comment and that will get some traction. But it's really difficult to create unique content on Twitter, especially if you don't have a big following, right? I post on Twitter every other day and literally, I don't even think anybody knows it exists, okay? I don't think anybody has liked one of my posts in probably 7 months. Okay, but when I make a comment under a real estate post, it gets some traction and people share it around, which is pretty cool. Lastly, what was a platform you mentioned, Angel? LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a really strong platform because a lot of people don't create unique content. If you go to LinkedIn and you look at your feed, you typically see people sharing other people's content. So if you actually create content on LinkedIn, it has a better chance of getting shared because there's fewer contributors. What type of content could you share? And guys, those of you who have been to my meetings before, like you have the answers to this, okay? What type of content could you share on LinkedIn?
Original posts.
Make an original post, okay? Did we not talk about this yesterday, actually? Literally yesterday morning? And what type of post could you, as a new agent, could you post on LinkedIn?
Well, talk about your life as a new agent with some kind of catchy title.
So as a brand new agent, it's really difficult to create content about real estate. So my advice is why not write an article titled my first 2 weeks in New York City real estate, here's what I learned, right? And it could be 4 paragraphs, but I'll bet you, especially if you post that in different groups, by the way, LinkedIn has groups just like Facebook, okay? If you post that in some groups, you'll start getting some traction. Okay. And it's a good exercise in just creating content, right? Because nobody's really editing your content and going to harass you. Did you publish that yesterday?
I'll do it today.
Do it.
And I'll send it to you.
Do it, please. But that's a good way to utilize LinkedIn. But you guys have to understand the differences in the platform. And when you're creating content, by the way, guys, it's all free. You understand that? I might sound like Gary V a little bit because he talks a lot about social media advertising, but it's all free. If this was 20 years ago and you were sitting at a desk in a real estate office, how would people find out that you existed? Newspaper, word of mouth. All right, well, I'll continue and we're going to talk about all those ways, but a lot of these ways are not cheap. Okay, well, maybe not so much about 20 years ago, but now you have Google Ads. Google Ads can be very powerful. I used to do them. You have to, just like the Facebook ads manager, you have to really be able to target audience, and you can hire people to do this for you, or you can just watch a 15-minute YouTube video and then run some tests. Tests mean basically you're running one ad one way, another ad another way, and seeing how and looking at the results, see how they perform. But Google Ads can be very powerful. By the way, Google pretty much runs the internet. Okay. When you go to a web page, you're usually going through Google Chrome, right? You're not going through Internet Explorer anymore. Most people are using Google Chrome as their internet, basically. So when you search something in Google Chrome, it by default searches in Google, and Google likes to promote Google products. Okay. Speaking of which, Google business page. How many of you guys have a Google business page? Show of hands. Of course, the Remax guys do. All right, guys, Google business page. One, it's free. Two, it shows up on the maps. Okay, so if somebody's looking for real estate, they're looking for an apartment, looking for a condo or co-op, and they happen to be in Google Maps, there's a good chance, because they have tracking pixels and things like that, that real estate related content is going to show up for them. So if they happen to be in Midtown and your Google business page is Angel Santiago, real estate extraordinaire licensed salesperson, and your location is West 37th Street and somebody's looking through, you're going to show up on their map. Did you know that?
I don't know.
Yeah. I tell everybody who has their notary license to do the same thing. Create a Google business page for your notary. Everybody's searching for notaries all the time, especially after 5 o'clock at night. And that's a decent way for you to make some money. So same thing goes in real estate. People will search you and at least you'll be on their map. And again, when people search Google, which is how people search the internet, Google wants to display their own products. So if you exist on Google Maps, there's a really good chance you're going to populate the first few searches. No, it's free. It's free. Yeah, to create a business page, it's free. The only thing you have to do is they want to verify your address. So it's going to send a postcard to your office, and you have an office. Okay. And then I think the postcard has a code on it or something. Then you go back to the page and have to put in the information. But again, it's free. Okay. Next up is word of mouth. So word of mouth is also free, but it can be very difficult, especially for those of you who felt a little anxious when it was your turn to share your name with the room. All right. Word of mouth is going to be a little more difficult for you because you have to be outgoing, or you have to talk to people, and you have to let people know that you're a real estate agent and remind them that you're a real estate agent. Okay. I don't think you need to be soliciting them. All right. You're not going to call your aunt and say, hey, were you thinking about selling your house this week? Okay. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to, but everyone you know should know what you do. And that's how word of mouth works. All right. So you want to be publicizing to your friends and family of what you do and remind them on a regular basis that if they know someone who needs real estate help, they can send them to you. And if you happen to be part of a real estate team, so for those of you who are new, it's really difficult to feel confident in selling your services, right? Especially to your closest friends. If you happen to be part of a real estate team, sorry guys, maybe you have your own team, but you can share that you're part of a team that has a lot of experience, lots of agents, right? And that way it's not just on you and your inexperience. There's a lot of experience behind that, right? So a good way to utilize that team as a new agent. Next up is signage. So we were talking about real estate 20 years ago. How would somebody find out about you? A bus ad? Okay, I'd hate to be on the back end of a bus. I think that would literally be the worst place to be. A bus ad, where else can you have a sign? What's that? A bus bench. Okay, we don't have benches anymore in New York City, but there's some out there you could probably advertise on. A bus stop. Okay, where else could you have a sign?
Flyers.
You could, so Rent Hop right now, it's not cheap. Okay, but Rent Hop is advertising on subway cars, right? You could advertise on taxi TV. You could advertise on the top of a taxi. You could advertise in grocery stores, right? There's a lot of signage that you can pay for, right? And if this was 20 years ago, that's what you'd be doing, right? You'd want your billboard to be right outside the Lincoln Tunnel, right? Especially if I tell agents this all the time, right? This would be free to advertise near the Lincoln Tunnel, but if an agent just took a big sign, not like one made out of cardboard with some marker on it, right? But an agent just took a nice professional looking sign, wore a suit, and stood on the entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel, the Manhattan side, that said, if you lived in Manhattan, you'd be home by now, right? That would be free, right? But otherwise you'd be paying for a big billboard. Could say the same thing outside of the Lincoln Tunnel. Let's see. All right, back to social media. asking other agents, successful agents, to share their listings on social media. Hey, would it be all right if I shared that with my network on Instagram? Most people would say yes to that. They wouldn't want you advertising their listing, right? But they'd let you share it, right? This is a business where people want to expand their reach as much as possible. So if you can put another real estate agent, they might say, well, could you tag me? Sure. But if you can put another real estate agent on the map of all of your contacts, they'd probably be pretty happy about that, right? Or at least, even if at the very least, their listing, right? Because they want their listings to have as much exposure as possible. So if you were to go to some open houses, maybe on a Sunday, and speak to the person holding the open house, they'd probably be okay with that, especially if you were just taking some photos and videos from in the open house rather than taking the professional photos on Street Easy that they paid for, right? Next up is attending industry events. The nice thing about industry events is you can make business-related connections. You can meet real estate schools. You can meet mortgage brokers. We met at a sort of real estate related event, right? And look where we are today. But you meet mortgage brokers, you can meet title companies, and you can meet people that can complement your business. They may send business your way. My best thinking is you probably don't need to have 50 connections who are mortgage brokers, 50 different title companies. You want to have one or two, maybe some smaller ones, and stay in touch with those guys on a regular basis, and they may send you some leads. And that would be inbound interest. You make that connection, you nurture that relationship, and you will get inbound leads coming your way. Contribute to community groups, online groups, Facebook groups, next door. So community groups, who belongs to a community group? Like an in-person one where you have to go somewhere and there's real human bodies that are warm. All right. So notice how the number of hands went down now, okay? Community groups, again, this was 20 years ago, this would be how you would network with your community. You'd go to a block party, you go to different things that were happening in the community. It's not as common anymore. It's also, you know, I lived in a building for 7 years. I only met one neighbor on the floor, right? Everybody was basically my next door neighbor. I literally didn't even make eye contact with the other people. I mean, a lot of the time I said, hello, good morning. They didn't even look up. All right. It's really difficult these days to become part of a community. What's up? Okay.
I get a lot of, and you know, you just smile, compliment the dog, and then kind of segue into what building do you live in? Because I'm real estate agent and I'm looking for buildings for the dog.
That's
You're not being pushy. You're not-
so look, I'm not a dog person. Okay. Just, I don't, I could do like a stuffed dog or something, but, or a hot dog, but the picking up poop part is very strange to me. I grew up in the countryside. We just left it. We had a lot of land. We just left it out there. I don't know, but and then moving to New York City, watching people pick it up with their bare hands. And I understand there's a half millimeter piece of plastic between your hand and the poop. Either way, it's always been fascinating for me. But when I became, I have a 6-month-old, by the way, so I am, yeah, I'm very familiar with poop. All right, so, but hear me out on this. That part of it was fascinating for me. But when I became a real estate agent, I really started to watch social behavior. And I was astounded by the fact that I could be in my building on the same floor, get on the elevator, and not talk to somebody. Yet somebody who's walking down the block with their dog will stop at almost every other person who has a dog. They sniff each other's butts. And then not the people, the dogs. And then the two people talk to each other like their animals aren't sniffing each other's butts. All right. But it's a great way to be social. It's a really good way to be social. You guys know Rosh, who hired most of you guys. He goes to the dog park every day. He knows Barbara Corcoran, he knows Michael J. Fox, and he knows literally everybody else that lives in the neighborhood with a dog because he just stands there while people run around with the dogs. It's a really good point in terms of meeting people in your neighborhood. If you are not that outgoing to talk to strangers and you don't want to buy a pet, There are meetup groups. Meetup is a cool website where you can join local groups where there are activities where you can meet other people. I would advise if you guys don't have a friend group or you're new to New York City, that would be a really good way to start meeting some people in the community. Next up are online groups. So we talked about Facebook Marketplace. We talked about Facebook housing groups like Gypsy Housing. By the way, if you're not sure which groups to join on Facebook, just go to the group search and type NYC apartments, and you will get 150 groups. And there's new ones every couple of months. So you want to do that search on a regular basis. But there are also community groups. So Dog Walkers of the Upper West Side is a group on Facebook, and it's a very active group. Moms of the Financial District is probably another Facebook group. And there's a lot of conversation going on. Now, they don't just say, hey, I'm a mom in the Financial District, my husband makes lots of money, or I make lots of money. They say, you know, I'm really stressed this week. We're trying to find another apartment and it's been crazy with work. Could there be some opportunity there? Okay. Nextdoor app. So the Nextdoor app is all of those community groups in a nutshell. Is anyone familiar already with Nextdoor? Too much BS, right? Yeah. It's because it is that Dog Walkers of the Upper West Side or Moms of the Financial District and people complaining about everything, right? There was a loud fire truck that went by. I'm so pissed. Okay. That's what you see in a lot of that stuff. If you have a Ring doorbell, you have the Ring. Anybody have a Ring doorbell? Nest doesn't have the community that Ring has. Ring has a local community where people talk about, in my neighborhood in Jersey, about the number of deer that they see. But they also talk about power outages and big noises, and similar to Nextdoor, they complain. However, you log in once a day, you look at the last 15, 20 comments. A lot of times, especially in Nextdoor, you'll see people that are moving, right? Where they're having an estate sale or things like this. And that's a great way to make connections. All right. General online presence. So by that, I mean having a profile on real estate websites. A lot of agents don't have profiles on real estate websites. So if you don't have a Trulia profile, that's free, guys. Zillow profile, free. Not just, I'm not saying listing on those. We're not even as far as listing on those platforms. Some of those platforms, it costs money to list. But when someone searches for real estate agents, or they search for New York City real estate, those are the websites that are going to populate that first and second page of the Google search results, right? So you want to at least exist, at the very least exist. You want to have a headshot, right? I am always blown away when I come across a real estate agent who doesn't have a headshot or their contact information. When I'm trying to track somebody down to see a listing and I can't find their phone number or their email address, drives me insane. Drives me absolutely insane, because I hate filling out that online form where you have to put your name, your phone number, and your email and submit. Okay. That's, as far as I'm concerned, second to sending an email, which, by the way, sending an email, how many of you guys have checked your email since we've been in here? Right? How many people's phone have rung since you've been in here? Okay, mine's rung like 7 times. I see it. I don't know how many emails I've gotten. That's why I like calling people. So you want to make sure that your contact information, specifically your phone number, is available in on all of those platforms. You guys filled up the blanks on the sheet, right? Because remember, these sheets are blank. You don't fill them out, you're going to walk out of here and they're still going to be blank. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about prospecting leads, the outbound pursuit. So this is you contacting people who have a need. We brushed a little of it in the last slide, the last few ideas. I just thought of this analogy this week. And for those of you guys who know me, I use a lot of analogies. But I've noticed that agents are not treating leads as if they are urgent. So my advice is that you treat leads the way a firehouse This is good. It made it into this meeting. The way the firehouse treats fire calls. Okay. When your phone rings, when you get a lead, you answer it. Nobody at the firehouse says, you know what, we'll get back, let's grab lunch and we'll get back to those people when we come back. Okay. No, everything's burning down. In New York City, people are looking for apartments the way they look for dates on Twitter. All right. No, not Twitter. What's the thing called? Tinder. The way, and I never used Tinder, just for the record. There was a time that I had it, but I never used it. But I've worked with a lot of young men, okay, and young ladies. I know how they use it, okay? And women tend to be a little more discriminatory than men. But what men do is they just go like this, one after the other after the other. Now, if you watch people look at apartments, they basically do the same thing, okay? Not quite as much, not at least as a 20-something-year-old dudes do. But they contact a lot of agents. All right. So the first agent that gets back to them is going to have the upper hand. So if you're waiting until 10:30 in the morning and you stroll into the office to check and see what leads you got, you're going to lose to the hungry competition, which, by the way, this is New York City. Right. This isn't Kansas. Right. Your competition is very hungry. If you're not answering a lead when it comes in, right, you have to answer every email when it comes in. But if it's a lead, you want to at least touch it. If it's 11 o'clock at night and you see it come through, you could at least message the person, hey, just saw the message. I'll give you a call in the morning. Or especially if there's not a phone number. Hey, just saw your message. Please send your number so I can call you in the morning. Right? But at least touch base with it. And then if by 9, 10 o'clock they haven't gotten back to you, you could then follow up with them at that time. Right. But the 11 p.m. message that you see come through is not acceptable to get around to answering at 11:30 the next morning, right? You want to treat your leads the way the firehouse treats incoming fire calls.
She was texting like all night, and when you respond at 6 a.m. and somebody at 10 a.m., he will be on the top when she wake up at noon. So you will respond at 6 a.m. You will be on the
well, okay. So what you're saying is if somebody messages you at 11 and then goes on to lay in bed until 2 o'clock in the morning, sending 30 more messages, your message is going to be at the bottom. But your message wasn't, and again, we're going to talk about follow-up a little bit later in this, but your message was, I'll reach back out to you in the morning. So you touched it. And of the 30 messages, you were one of the 2 that replied. Okay. Now they're going to have this many messages above yours that aren't going to be answered. But then in the morning, you're going to follow up and be back at the top of their list of messages. Okay. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay. Next is outbound calls. How many in the room are calling for sale by owners, expired listings, for rent by owners? I know the Remax guys are. Why aren't you guys? For the Oxford guys, I send you guys the list of for sale by owners every weekend. And if you look in the listings email, there's a lot of other lists that we get with potential sellers and potential people that are leasing out their property. Making outbound calls is really easy. It's easy in the sense that it doesn't cost you any money to do it unless you have like some whack phone plan. Okay. But the days of having to call people running out of minutes is pretty much over, I think. It's free. And it's just a matter of getting over yourself and getting on the phone, right? Which I watch people all day long get on the phone. I understand people are very hesitant to get on the phone these days, okay? Let's see. You're not sure what to say on the phone. Again, we can go back to Google and we can search expired phone script. And then not just looking at the script, okay, but because Google owns YouTube, your top results are going to be people making outbound calls on YouTube, and you can watch how they do it. Okay, my advice to you guys is that you actually don't follow the script. All right, you take some notes of what you want to say, and then you get on the phone and say it in real time, so as that you're not reading a script and sounding like a weirdo when you're calling people. Okay, but these are really easy things to be doing that every real estate agent should be doing at least by your second week once you've got your sea legs in this business. Oh, again, we don't do this in our Thursday meetings, but the team leaders probably should be doing some of this, is role playing with guys. Didn't we do a role play a week or two ago? And you got to hear kind of how I said things, and not just for the for sale, for rent by owners, but any issues that you're running into on a regular basis. If it's convincing your clients to meet you in person, right? You could play the client, and another real estate agent who's not having issues with it could play you, and you'll learn how they overcome those things. All right. So role playing is thank you for that. Again, this is an interactive meeting, so I really appreciate it. Role playing is very powerful. Mailers. A lot of agents don't do mailers. Mailers are not a big thing these days, but it's something that does get some traction, and agents who use them. Is Remax still pushing mailers?
But my old office, I used to work for agents, and we were big on mailers, and I
Yep.
find that I've got a lot of this from the mailers. People save postcards.
So
Picture, I did property,
Mhm.
the neighborhood,
exactly.
and they
Oh, that's
would
brilliant.
post the picture, I would come to their apartment. Like, you know, get food, like,
So the thing about the reason why mailers suck, okay, because all of us get mail every day. All right. Most of you guys don't even actually look at the mail. You know, just by feeling what's garbage, right? Okay. So if you have a real estate mailer, it's going to look like every other real estate mailer. People aren't even going to look at it. Okay. Now, if it's something like a beautiful photo of your neighborhood, like a postcard, somebody might put that on their refrigerator. But you have to be thinking about what you're putting on there, right? You have to be thinking about the person who's receiving it. What are they thinking when they get it? Not what's your intent, but how it's being received. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah.
So I think I see the utility there, but I think a lot more of those are going to get thrown away, right? Because it looks like everybody else's. Now that might still get some traction rather than just a mailer saying, I'm a real estate agent in your area, right? Like that's better because people will be looking at the property, but I'll bet more of those get thrown away than the beautiful pictures of the neighborhood. Just Mhm.
And then put a little, trivia question on the back, and they save it.
Exactly. Yeah.
They call me because of it.
I think that's brilliant. So just back to mailers, guys, something that you could really consider. I mean, she just gave you, you're not mailing every neighborhood, right?
No.
So there might be some, okay, so you're hyper specialist, so definitely not mailing every neighborhood. So you think she doesn't have the corner on the market, guys. All right. And if you started doing this, it probably would not interfere with her business. All right. So you pick one neighborhood, maybe one that you live in, or maybe another neighborhood that you prefer to work in, and focus on that neighborhood. By the way, New York City, you might live in a very historic neighborhood, but the majority of New York City has some historical roots. I'm sure you could find some content to throw on a postcard and mail that out.
Just go to Wikipedia and look up your neighborhood
Yeah.
and see what's there.
Also, if you're putting images, make sure that they're licensable images. You're not just stealing somebody else's property. All right. Just a heads up. All right. I know most things get a pass these days, but you really shouldn't be taking somebody else's pictures. Messaging potential buyers, renters, landlords, property managers. So potential buyers you may come across on social media, right? And then you reach out to them and send them an actual DM. Somebody who you see in social media. So we talked about this in the groups when we were talking about inbound interest, but this is really the outbound part. When you see somebody who has a need and you send a direct message to them. Also, the thing about Facebook is if you DM somebody on Facebook you're not connected with, it might go to their message request. But if you do just 30 seconds of research on that person, right, which you might as well, because you just spent 6 minutes looking through groups for something to grab onto, you found this person, you're on their profile, you might very easily, be able to find their email address, right? Because a lot of times on Facebook, it's going to have their job or something like that. Or if they're a real estate agent, my email address and phone number are on my Instagram profile, my Facebook profile. There's a lot of people, whatever business that they're in, have their contact information out there. And you could just find their email address, and their email is probably more likely to get you a reply than their Facebook message requests folder. Okay, because messages on Facebook have gotten pretty complex.
It sounds kind of freaky, but if you really want to reach someone, you can go to your profile, look at who your friends are, and see if you have any mutual friends. Because then you can try to get a recommendation there or get the direct contact.
And also, this is a lot freer than mailers are. Right? It's just a time investment. Now, I wouldn't recommend showing up to the office and doing this for 3 hours, right? But when the office closes and it's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and you're saying, what could I be doing for my business? Because I'm 100% game to make this my career and be successful at it. And I'm going to sleep, eat, think real estate. What could I be doing right now? This is something you could be doing. Back to landlords and property managers also, there's a lot of landlords and property managers that you could start getting their rental listings in this city. You walk by a building that looks like a rental building, and you could look on Property Shark, figure out who the owner or the management company is, reach out to them. Now, a lot of the time, I would say nearly all of the time when you reach out to them, and you say, hey, are you looking for a real estate agent to list your properties? Like, that may not be what I would lead with, okay? Most of the time, the feedback that I get from people who actually do this is they tell me, oh, they already have a broker. And I'm thinking, well, shit, the building's 85 years old, right? They've owned it for the last 40 years. Like, you think they just happen to not have someone helping them rent their apartments in this blip of an instant? No, of course they already have a broker they're working with. But you got to start conversation with them and find your way into starting to get their listings, right? You might say, oh, I'd be happy to co-broke with that person. Could you put me in touch? By the way, if I happen to bring somebody direct, would I be able to submit that to you? A lot of these guys would say, sure. Now, a lot of those guys also are paying those brokers a commission, an OP. Okay, so if you do go through that other broker, it costs the landlord money. But you could say, hey, you know what? I collect a fee from my client. So if I was to bring somebody direct to you, would I be able to submit it? Right now, you're saving them a month of rent. Right, like that's an easy way to wiggle your way in there. Yeah. Attending non-industry related events. Did you go to that event? Did you go to that event last week? In City Field?
I missed it.
Okay, so I invited some of you guys to City Field last week for this real estate related event. Now you go there, who was there? Real estate brokers, your competition. Mortgage companies, title companies, insurance companies. 15 times somebody came up to me and said, hey, would you happen to be in the market for insurance? Maybe. That was, and it was like they had scripted this, all of them, before they went there, and that was their pitch, which I happen to have not been in market for insurance that afternoon. So I declined all 15 of them. But that was an industry event where you meet your competition and people that are trying to solicit you. Okay. Now, if you go to non-industry events, right, like Chess Club or some meetup group for Rocky Balboa fans or something like that, all of these people live in apartments, right? And it's a great way for you to network, right? So the non-industry events are a really good way to for you to expand your network and reach potential clients. And we talked in the last one about engaging with online groups, and we talked again earlier in this slide about engaging with user posts, like on Nextdoor and things like that. A lot of times in the Facebook groups, you see somebody who's looking for a roommate, or looking to for a new apartment because they hate their roommates. Okay, somebody who's having a sale, an estate sale, or a garage sale, or they're selling furniture. If you look at the Facebook Marketplace and you see somebody who's listing a sofa, a bed, and a desk, and they're in the Upper East Side, chances are they're moving. Okay, some people are just buying all new furniture, but most of those people are moving. Sometimes people are looking for referrals. And then if you look at a lot of the posts also, and this is a great way for sales agents, find people who are getting married or getting divorced or having a baby and reach out to them and offer them real estate services. All right. Back when ethics and morality were a big concern, nobody really did this, but I don't think there's any line anymore to reach out to somebody who's getting divorced and say, hey, want to sell. Okay. I think that's pretty commonplace. All right, next up is managing leads and clients. Sure.
Just to step back to with answering phone calls or emails right away, if that's with other agents, is that their voicemail is full.
Oh, God.
So.
Um,
new agent, this is just the voicemail, because you're developing relationships with other agents.
Guys, also having a voicemail message, right? Right, this is Jorge with Oxford. You're calling about an apartment, so something along those lines identifies you. Just one step up from that 40-second message where it tells you you've reached someone's voicemail and how to leave a voicemail, right? Which drives me nuts. So record your own voicemail, but then stay on top of those things. All right, my guys should know this. What's the difference between a lead and a client? Okay, my guys do know this. Somebody just give me the answer.
Maybe will just someone asking.
When does someone become a client?
When you sign some paperwork.
When you've met with them. So at the first in-person contact with that person, that first consultation is when they become your client. Up until then, they're a lead, and we treat leads and clients differently. We work for clients. We don't work for leads. By the way, I did say in-person meeting makes them your client. But at the very least, a Zoom or a FaceTime call where you're having that consultation with someone, right? That would be the line that I would draw before I start working for someone. So if somebody's asking me to send them listings and things like that, I am at least having a face-to-face consultation where I understand their criteria and find their motivating factors for moving. But I'm not going to, if somebody says, hey, thanks, yeah, I'm interested in this listing, but could you send me some other listings? Can you send me some videos? I would never go out and start running around the city taking video tours for someone. Having a follow-up plan. CRM, anybody using a CRM right now? So Oxford, our dashboard has a built-in CRM where you can record all of your clients. I think we're in the Salesforce building. I hear they have a CRM. Okay.
Wise agent.
Wise agent. Yeah, there's a few that are Follow-Up Boss, I think is another one. There's some real estate specific follow-up plans and CRMs.
Actually, sorry, I have a class on wise agent. That you
Oh,
can
do
see credit for, so if you want, I can host
Nice.
that. Learn how to
Nice.
use it, get credit for it.
Send that to me because I think that could be really beneficial. A lot of people at Oxford use Chime, where you can create smart plans that, based off someone's interaction with the messages, send unique messages back out to them. It's not real estate related, so you have to make your own follow-ups, whereas some of the real estate related ones will actually have follow-up. I think the thing about the automated systems, and even the ones that are specifically real estate, is when you get an email from these plans, you know that somebody didn't actually type it. Okay, there's a cheese factor to it that you could just tell somebody didn't actually type this out to me. It's automated. Okay, now that's really easy to hack, right? What makes something look automated? What's that? Lack of personalization. Now you can put the person's name in there, right? But how would you create something that's automated to not look like it was automated? So usually what I find is the message starts out with, "Dear Justin, comma, 2 or 3 spaces down, the next paragraph, and then a blank signature." Now, that's not how I write emails. Okay. I say, "Hey, Lucy, I just wanted to check in on this." And it's very informal, right? Now, that's a little hack that actually looks like it was just typed, right? And you don't want to make it look unprofessional, right? Because it's your reputation. But if it looks too professional, it's clear that it's automated. So if you are setting up an automated follow-up system, pay attention to how they're going to look when someone receives them. Just like, by the way, just like the mailers that people throw in the garbage. How many emails do you delete a day without even opening them? Okay. Which, by the way, there are some junk emails that I get that have such a catchy subject that I actually open just to see what's in there. So that's something that you guys should be able to hack as well, is the subject line of the emails to get an actual open. How many people think they got more than 50 emails so far today? Oh, probably most of you. Okay. Who got more than 5 DMs today on Instagram or Snapchat or somewhere else? Okay. How about more than 5 texts? You guys got more than 5 texts? All right. For those of you guys who are in group chats, that shit's crazy. You probably have 500 by now. How many people made 5 phone calls today? Two people in this room. Very few phone calls. So when it comes to following up, the phone calls themselves are very powerful. Okay, we're going to talk more on phones later, but understand that none of you guys have been on the phone today, yet all of you guys have 50 emails. Okay. Now let's not think about yourselves. Let's think about your clients. Right. I'm always surprised when clients pick up the phone, right? Because I feel like people don't pick up the phone these days, but a lot of the time when I make phone calls, people pick up the phone. All right. And again, it's probably because my phone doesn't say scam likely, right? It just looks like a person that's calling them.
And it's getting to be too long because
Mhm.
oh,
Well,
then I'll text.
I tell
and
all
then later,
I tell all of my agents that we don't have conversations by text or email. We have conversations over the phone. So you need to convey that to your clients who you are texting. Hey, I get 60 to 70 inquiries a day. If you're serious and you want to set up a viewing, please give me a call. I'm happy to answer any questions and set it up. Now, if they ask other questions, you just say, again, happy to answer any questions and schedule a viewing. Reminder, I get too many leads to text back and forth. And if they text you the questions or whatever, or they don't, or they just stop answering you, that's fine, because you're going to then follow up with them in your next follow-up session. Okay. I would advise doing at least twice a day, and you guys should write this down, those of you who are taking notes, do at least 2 a day callback sessions. So whether that's after you get in the office and while you're having a cup of coffee, you follow up with people by phone, and then maybe again in the afternoon. I would especially stress this on Friday afternoons if you don't have any appointments, if your weekend isn't jam-packed, right? Friday afternoon should be a time where you go back to every person who contacted you for the last 2 weeks and say, hey, I have some time free Saturday afternoon. Let me know if you'd like to tour some listings. Friday, because Saturday and Sunday are the days that we can do more business on a Saturday than we do Monday through Friday. And year after year, that's always been the case for me. Except oddly, for some reason, since the pandemic, a lot of agents aren't working Saturdays, but also a lot of people just aren't working in general. So it beats me. Qualifying leads. The first step when you're talking to someone is booking the appointment. Booking the appointment's the toughest part. So it doesn't matter if somebody has great credit and great income if they're not willing to meet with you. Okay. So first things first, when I get on the phone with someone, is I book the appointment with them. Now, if they say, "Oh, well, hold up, I have questions," I just say, "I'm happy to answer all the questions and then some. But if you can't see the apartment this afternoon, right, or if it's a sales listing with an open house by the open house date, we're not going to be answering questions about this apartment because it's going to be gone. So I just want to check, you have time this afternoon?" And then you book the appointment from there. But first thing you need to do, you book the appointment and qualify them from there. And again, the phone qualifying is going to be a much lighter qualifying than the actual consultation that you have with that person. Okay, because when you're doing the consultation and you are face to face, you'll find which factors can bend with that person a lot more. Whereas somebody who may not make 40 times a monthly rent, or have good credit, or have a pre-qualification letter, over the phone, you might just qualify those people out, right? Whereas when you're sitting in person, you could figure out what the options are that are on the table or potentially off the table, but possibilities, right? Because people will open up a lot more to you when you're in person during that consultation.
Just curious, first requiring pre-approval.
No, but most people are. So I tell my agents, generally you want to have a pre-approval before you tour anybody. And same thing we do for rentals. Before we go out and tour any rentals, you want to make sure your person's qualified. But our corporate policy doesn't require pre-approval. So book the appointment, then discuss their qualifications. There's 4 categories of leads, and I want you guys to make sure you're noting these down. Okay. The first 15% of the leads that you're going to get, and these are the absolute best leads, and this is why we love the summertime. Okay, because 15% on an annual basis may be 40% of your business in the summertime, actually. Okay, but this 15% are moving to avoid some type of pain. Okay, their lease is ending and they have to be out. Right, their landlord already has somebody lined up, and it is what's today, the 18th? Say 18th, and these people need a place by June 1. That sounds like somebody who's could be in a bit of pain if they don't find a place, right? So they're moving to avoid pain. Discomfort for them is the biggest motivator. They have a need, they have a want, and they're qualified, right? This 15% are perfectly qualified, all right? The next 35%, these are buyers in power, all right? So these are qualified people who have a want to move, but they don't have an immediate need to move. And it's certainly not dictated by pain, by a pain point. They're not in any discomfort right now. Now, great salespeople can close every single one of these guys, or 95% of them, okay, because they're closable clients. But you'll spend more time with these people because you have to induce urgency. You have to find their real motivators and play to those motivators. You want to find out what their potential holdups might be, because they can afford to be a little bit pickier than somebody who needs to move, right? And that's why the needs to move people, especially in the summertime with students, will take just about anything. All right. Next up are window shoppers. These are mostly non-buyers. Now, some of them might be actual buyers, but they have no motivation whatsoever. So they might be qualified, they may not be qualified. You want to be really fast to identify these people. A lot of the time, money's the issue. Okay, so when we get rental inquiries that are short term, right? I've told you guys about this before. You post a $3,500 apartment, and somebody's looking for 3 months. How much money are they looking to spend? Roughly 10 grand, right? 10,500. Now, that apartment might rent for $3,500 a month, but a comparable apartment that's furnished and short term, right, has to make up for the fact that they have furniture in there that costs money, that's depreciating at a faster rate because a lot of people are using it, right? And there's going to be more vacancy throughout the year because it's short term. So the landlord's going to jack the rent. So that $3,500 apartment might be $6,500, right? Now in June, July, August, it might be $7 grand. Now, a 3-month rental at $7,000 working with a broker, how much is that going to cost them? 28 grand, Okay, 7,000 for the first month, 7,000 for the next, 7,000 for the third. That's 21,000 plus your fee, which is going to be a month, right? Because if it was a 12-month rental, you'd be charging 15% of the annual rent, right? So a lot of times when we get short-term leads, you've got to be really fast to figure out if they're qualified. And money is usually the issue with these window shoppers, right? They have some want, but they may not be qualified, or money, the ultimate number on the bottom line is going to be the holdup. However, you don't want to wait till you get to the bottom line of that contract after you've worked with them for a week, right? Lots of agents waste their time with these people, all right? And these people will be happy to get on the phone with you, by the way, right? They'll be happy to waste your time. The last portion are mistakes. So these are people who really don't have a need. So these might be the people that are looking for that $3,000 apartment for short term. They really can only afford $9,000, and they're quick to realize that they're in the wrong place, right? The mistake people aren't happy to be dealing with you to begin with. They don't want to pay a broker's fee, and not that everybody that doesn't want to pay a broker's fee isn't a good client, right? Because if you gave someone the option, do you want to pay a broker's fee? They're going to say no. Okay. If you said, hey, Justin, do you want to spend $180 on lunch? I'd say, why the hell would I spend $180 on lunch? Right now, if you say, hey, we're going to go have a few old fashions, a great steak lunch, and this, that, and the next, a seafood tower, I'd say, hell yeah. Okay. But you're a salesperson, right? You're not going to say, do you want to spend $180 on lunch? Do you want to pay a broker's fee? Right. People will be willing to do it, but if you ask them, they don't want to. The mistakes are the people that will never pay a broker's fee and resent the fact that they're dealing with you who is a broker. All right. You don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out if this person's a buyer and power or a window shopper. It's pretty clear right off the bat. This is somebody who you're not going to be doing a deal with. The tricky part is that last 35% that you might mix them up with the top 35%. Okay. You don't want to spend a lot of time on the things that won't directly result in you generating income. You need to aim your focus. There's a lot of non-income generating things that you can be doing, like spending hours building a personal website or creating a profile on different real estate websites. Those are things that don't directly generate income for you. Why some leads will never become your client. Now, those of you guys who have been through our managing leads and clients meeting on Thursday mornings should already have the answers to this. Again, this is interactive. The more you guys speak up, because I know you have the answers, the more the stuff is going to stick in your brain. They never respond to you, not once.
They don't trust you.
They don't trust you. Why may they not trust you?
They're not called.
Why wouldn't they trust you?
Like professional.
You don't look professional. You look like a sketchy agent. Your listing looks sketchy. Now, especially on the Facebook marketplace, that happens all the time, right? Imagine you're looking for an apartment and Martha's posting this apartment and she's located in Indiana and her profile picture is a flower. Okay, does that sound maybe sketchy? Probably looks like a scam. Now, guess what? Martha could be in Indiana. Maybe she's filthy rich and just not very attractive, which is why her profile picture is a flower. And she bought a place for her daughter who was in university and now moved out, but they bought it because it was an investment, right? That's viable, but it looks like a scam, right? It looks sketchy. Why else? You answered all their questions about the apartment. Now they don't like the listing. Okay, yeah. So I find that 9 out of 10 renters, especially in the summertime, don't rent the place they inquire on. I think you'll find probably 60% of buyers don't buy the place that they inquire on. So you have to have other options. The problem is if you gear that initial conversation towards just that one place, the majority of these people are not going to move forward. You're going to have to resell them on something else, right? So there's a good chance you answered all their questions and they disqualified that particular listing. What else? They're not qualified. They don't make enough money. You qualify them out. How about the listing was taken? If the listing's taken and you just tell the person, sorry, the listing was taken, I have other options. You basically represent zero options when you say that. That's not the best way to tell someone you have better options, right? Especially if it's by message, because they're just going to put your message in the trash can. Oh, you have other options. Again, that means zero, right? That means zero. Have other options is not intriguing when they can see other options on the same page that they're messaging you on, especially if they're using a desktop. There's 50 options in front of them, and you're saying I have other options, right? So if the place is rented or sold, you need to be able to present other options in that message, or even better, get them on the phone first. We're going to talk more about phones in a minute and why that's so important and why it works to get them on the phone first. But you get them on the phone and then explain that. They tell you yes on the phone. They'll book the appointment with you, but there was something that you missed. Your spidey sense didn't pick it up. They really weren't feeling it. They just told you yes to get you off the phone, but then you never hear back from them. So in this instance, your spidey sense isn't in tune. You really have to have a keen spidey sense to know when somebody's not picking up what you're laying down, okay? Because that person, you caught them on the phone by accident, right? Now, I do that all the time when I answer the call when it says number unknown, and I'm like, oh, shit, right? Now, I don't want to be mean because I'm a salesperson, right? I figure, these guys must have higher suicide rates because everybody tells them to, go screw themselves or just hangs up on them, right? You guys know toll booth operators, highest suicide rates in the country. You know why? Because they're a whole person experiencing the world just like you are, yet everybody just doesn't even look at them, right? They don't treat them like people. So when I get on the phone with somebody, I don't just say, screw you, or I don't hang up. I'm like, oh, I'm not interested, but thank you for the call, right? But in my mind, I'm going, oh, shit. Especially when I pick up the phone, it goes bloop. You guys all know that. That's new the last couple of years. Let's see. How about you never confirmed the appointment? All right. You booked the appointment on Tuesday for Saturday. You never confirm with them. That person's definitely not just going to turn up on Saturday. I've seen it happen maybe a dozen times in my entire career that somebody just turns up and 6 days went by between when they booked the appointment and the actual appointment. You can make the appointment the night before and they're not going to show up. And the agent never followed up. So you didn't confirm or follow up. We're going to talk about follow-up in a little bit, some decent follow-up tactics outside of just a final confirmation. But following up, put a star next to that if you wrote it down, which you should have, because I've told you guys 7 times now to write this stuff down. They weren't qualified. Too long between today and when the appointment was booked for. All right. That amount of time, so many different things could happen. Okay. They may decide they don't even want to move, right, in that amount of time. And all of that's out of your control. The more time between when you book the appointment and when the appointment that you booked is, the more likely something could happen, right? And if it's New York City, and especially if it's summertime, there's a really good chance that apartment is not going to be available, right? So I tell people all the time, if it's today, we need to be seeing it this afternoon. I don't care if you're in Pennsylvania, take a train over if you want this listing, right? These are just all blanks, I think, on here. How about they don't want to sign anything? All right, that happens a lot. People don't want to sign your registration form or agency disclosure forms, right? Which is silly because by the time they've met with 2 real estate agents, they should be familiar with these forms, right? You have to know how to explain them. We'll get there in a second. All right, so next up, the inverse, how to increase the number of leads that convert into clients. I just gave you guys, communication be a broad one, but, how about, communication, fast replies? Oh, man, you guys want to take a break? All right. What's a good amount of time? But enough time for you guys to run to the bathroom. 20 minutes. This guy said 5. You want 20 minutes?
And
10.
All right, let's call it 10 minutes. All right. You guys have until 12:35. All right, so we're talking about how to increase your conversion rate from leads to clients, right? We don't work for leads, we work for clients. And you're not going to make any money from people you don't work for. So you need to be working for your clients. So Zach, you said communication. What are some aspects? I said that was a broad term. So what are some aspects of communication?
Meeting their needs.
Meeting their needs. I don't know necessarily that would fall under the communication umbrella. But you're on to something. So first off, when it comes to communication, it's got to be fast, right? So a fast reply is really important. Somebody said phone call. Getting them on the phone. Write that down in capital letters with an exclamation point. Get them on the phone. Once you wrap up the call, you want to confirm the listings available, right? With the rental market, listings move really fast, okay? But I don't usually, as soon as I get that lead, the second it comes through, I call that person. I don't do investigating for what's on the market for this person. I don't do any work. I let the person know on the phone, I'm going to confirm that it's available. And if for any reason it isn't, I'm going to make sure they have some backup options. All right. Now, we're going to talk about in a minute what to do if it's not available. But generally, the way the rental market moves is everything needs to happen very quickly. Okay. And again, we don't work for people before they are our clients. So you going and spending 40 minutes finding options for them before you call them doesn't make any sense. When you got the lead at 11:06, you're not going to call them at 11:46. You're going to call them at 11:06, okay, and book the appointment because you want to be the first agent to be speaking with them, right? And if they're reaching out to you at 11:06, again, they're not putting their phone down, right? They're just going to continue to look through listings and connect with agents. So you need to be the first agent that calls them and books the appointment, right? You can confirm other things later. You can confirm the listing availability, you can confirm backup options, whatever you need to check into, but you do that after the fact. You need to be enthusiastic over the phone. You have to have some personality. You want to create some excitement. You want to follow up with them after that phone call. You don't want to be too professional when it comes to communication. For some reason, being too professional with people is a major turnoff. Okay, it makes you really easy to just ghost and just not follow up with, not answer. It's probably some toll booth theory, right? People just don't treat you like a person, right? So you have to be personable, right? Well, that's so exactly. You got to one, you got to know your audience, but two, you have to you got to find that fine line. Okay. People do business with people they like and trust. So you have to the best degree possible, demonstrate that you are likable and somebody who can be trusted. Connecting on LinkedIn. It's not a bad idea. That's a professional platform. You're not invading their personal life. Did you get lost? Send me anything else you see. I'd be happy to show it to you when we meet as well. right? That way you can be their agent, right? You don't cost them anything more. There's a broker fee, it's simply a co-broke. You make half, but that's better than making zero. If they're using a guarantor or they're using a mortgage bank, right? You want to be in touch with the other parties, all right? Couldn't hurt to say, put me in touch with your mortgage broker. Want to make sure you have everything worked out, or put me in touch with your guarantor. I'd like to make sure that they understand the process. Any questions I have, I can answer. A lot of times guarantors aren't comfortable sharing their financial information with the tenant, with their kids or their nephews or whoever they happen to be guaranteeing for, right? They don't want to send their freaking bank statements, their investment accounts, their tax returns, their full financial portfolio to their 20-year-old nephew. Okay, so a lot of times the guarantors will be happy to do that, and a lot of times also the banks will be happy to do that. Banks, you know, if they think they have a potential deal, they will jump all over you as the agent. But it's a really good way to strengthen your relationship with the client. If the client thinks you're working with the bank, right? The client, now you're becoming their agent, just like the bank is already their bank because they're pre-qualified with that bank. You guys are working together now as a team. And existing online in a professional way, professional headshot, bio, phone number, email address, and not just on the real estate websites, right? You guys all should be Googling yourself from an incognito tab, so it's not disrupted by the cookies that are on your computer, okay? And if you have a relatively common name, maybe put the words real estate afterwards, right? And hopefully at that point, still you'll get your own name, okay? But the more platforms that you exist on, the more real and professional you're going to look when someone does search you. Let's talk about the phone, the power of the phone. All right, you guys have blanks on the next page. I want you to fill these in. Are you awesome? All right, some of you feel pretty passionate about that. How awesome are you?
Credit.
Why are you awesome? You care about what? Your commission? You're motivated, you're a self-starter, you're a hard worker. Who gives a shit? This is in the eyes of your client. Why are you awesome to your client? Okay. Authentic. Everybody's authentic. Each person's unique. You know what? I've never seen somebody that looks like you. Never seen somebody with your accent. All right. Everybody's authentic. Why does your client give a shit? All right. And I mean that truly. You guys need to have compelling answers. If you're a car salesperson, why is your car, the car that you're selling, awesome? Okay. That's your product as a car salesperson, right? Real estate, when it comes to the phone, the product is you. Once you met with your client, the product is the apartment. But at this point in the process, remember I said we're going to break the process down to closing. Who gives a shit that you're motivated? Who gives a shit that you're unique? That you're funny? Maybe this stuff matters, but how do you sell it to the person on the other end of the phone? You need to have answers to these questions. You work in a car dealership and someone says, why should I buy this car? And you say, because it's awesome. It's not really compelling. Especially if it's a Toyota. Okay. Which, by the way, some of you are Toyotas. Some of you are new agents. So you have to be awesome other than I closed 100 deals last year. Right? That's awesome if you did close 100 deals a year. But if you're a new agent, how do you stand out? And again, not from your perspective, Okay, when I said who gives a shit, I really mean it. Why is someone going to give a shit? Unless they're walking their dog and they want to get rid of that. You need to have compelling answers to these questions. Let's see. You need to know yourself as a product. All right. Good salespeople sell. They sell from the eyes of the buyer. So develop good answers to these questions. All right. Okay, so we did this show of hands earlier, who had 20 DMs or so today, who had 50 emails today, who had 15 text messages today, who had more than 2 phone calls today. Okay. So the most of the contact is coming via DM, email, messenger, right? How are most of your leads going to come? The same way. This is the same way. They're going to come by text, email, DM. The phone call leads that you get are coming from either that top 15%. Remember, we just broke this down into 4 parts. Top 15%, people who are really motivated, moving for pain, or people who are desperate and probably not going to work, right? Let's see. The secret to getting more leads, converting more leads, is get them on the phone. Get them on the phone, guys. It's all about phones. It's all about who you are. How do you show who you are by email? What tonality do you have a control over by email? Exclamation points, awkwardly placed commas. I mean, get them on the phone. Let's talk about first impressions. There's 2 things on the screen here. All right. Now, what do you think their voices sound like? I happen to call the bank and I hear an Indian accent. I go, oh shit, they're not going to be able to help me. I've reached your call center. Okay. Now that's presumptuous. That's presumptuous on my part. Okay. Person might work in the office. Usually when I'm calling the bank, I'm looking for the branch, right? And it could be someone with an Indian accent who works for the branch. But my mind instantly goes to call center. Do I think that person, from the instant they start speaking, I lose all faith in their ability to help me? Okay. Imagine you got a group assignment. You were just assigned in school some groups. You got an assignment. One of your guys looks at you and goes, "Oh man, glad we're together, dude. We're gonna ace this one. I know you got this." Right? Got kind of a hothead, Keanu Reevesy accent. You think this guy's gonna pull his fair share? You have any faith in him? No. Okay. How about you're looking for something on the in a shoe store? All right. You trying to find your size, and some guy walks up to you and goes, "Hey, what you all doing here in the store today?" You go, "I'm just me, by the way. Just buying shoes. You have a size 10.5?" "Oh, yeah, you all wait right here. I'll be right back with that 10.5. You think those shoes are coming back anytime soon? No. Now, you don't know this guy. You don't know the group guy. Could be a genius. You know, the guy with the Indian accent isn't in the branch. But what do you think instantly? Okay. First impressions over the phone are done with your voice. Okay. And it doesn't matter whether it's sexist or racist or whatever it is. That's people's biases. Okay. But these are things that are very much in your control, the tone of your voice, how you speak, things like that. And remember, the tone of voice says nothing about ability. Okay. It's all first impressions. Once you get them on the phone, that's your first opportunity to really convey who you are. But in the first 4 seconds, there are 3 things that most of you guys know, because we talk about this almost every single meeting. The 3 things you must convey in the first 4 seconds over the phone. What are they? No, dude, couldn't be wronger. All 3. Christ, guys. All 3. Gotta be sharp as attacked. As attack, not tact. You're supposed to speaking clearly would be part of that. You're gonna be sharp. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to have charisma. And you must be the authority. Nobody questions authority, they respect it. These things can be achieved through tonality, cadence, grammar, clarity, smoothness, confidence, energy, speed. When it comes to being excited, you don't answer the phone excited. Hey, John, I'm so happy you called today. Hey, John, you were interested in which apartment, was it? Oh, the 3-bed? Oh, that's a great one. You see how the excitement goes up when we talk about the 3-bed and becomes anchored in that apartment. If you just answer excited, it's really nothing. Okay. But you need to be sharp, which means you have to have answers. Right. When I tell new agents to book their appointments to meet the clients in the office, and the agents don't know the office address off the top of their head, that's awkward. All right. Do you sound sharp or like the authority? No. Okay. What about somebody who's just moved to New York City and got a new phone number? Trying to give somebody their phone number over the phone. Right? And you don't know the number by heart. Do you sound sharp? No, you sound like an idiot. All right. Cadence, grammar, tonality, clarity, smoothness, confidence, energy, and speed. These things will help you achieve sharpness, enthusiasm, and authoritativeness. That's good old school advice. Standing up, but it's true because your body language dictates your energy, right? Now, you know, if you're a real old school expert, there's a movie with Kevin, American Beauty. You guys see this movie? The guy talks on the phone, and he's kind of like got this douchey salesman voice over the phone, but just he's like doing something else. But as soon as the phone rings, he can just turn it on over the phone. Most people can't do that. Okay, so you got to put yourself in the physical state to be able to do that. All right. When you're on the phone with a client, with a lead, what are their goals? Qualify you, to qualify the apartment. How does somebody qualify an apartment? They ask questions to disqualify it. So they're actively actually trying to disqualify the listing to see if it's worth their time. What do they want from you? Do they want to work with you, build a long-term lasting client salesperson relationship? No, they want you to unlock a door. What are your goals as the agent? That's it. Thank you. You guys know the answers. All right. You knew the answers in the last slide too, by the way. To book an appointment. Now, are these the same goals? You're trying to book an appointment. They're trying to see if the appointment's worth booking. Okay. Those aren't the same goals. Now, there is one goal that's not the forefront of the conversation that you do both have in common. And I lean back on this from time to time, especially when I feel that I'm diverging with a client, right? We're no longer on the same page. I remind them that we do have a common goal. Okay, and while I may be the salesperson, our goals are the same. You want to find the best apartment for your criteria, and I want to find you the best apartment for your criteria. Right? If that's not printed on here, write it down. What is the common goal? To find the best apartment for your client's criteria. They've agreed to book an appointment. Now what? Now, so remember, we don't qualify and then book. We book and then qualify. So you want to make sure if it's a rental, they make 40 times the monthly rent, have good credit. If it's a buyer, that they are pre-qualified. And then you suggest meeting at the office. Why at the office, you ask? Not everybody wants to meet at the office. Okay. I don't book appointments to meet at the office. I book appointments to tour apartments and we meet at the office. You see the difference? Agents come to me all the time and go, my client doesn't want to meet at the office. I said, I know they don't, just like I don't feel like spending $180 on lunch. Okay. But if somebody sold it to me, I'd say, it sounds like a great afternoon. All right. Because the value is there. So what's the value of meeting at the office? Our office is in Midtown. Most New Yorkers pass through Midtown during the week, at least once or twice. So people will be able to get to the office. What I like to say is I'm happy to show you the listing. When we meet, we can discuss your criteria and go over any additional listings that might work for you. We have a lot of new places that come on the market every day that you can't find online. Ideally, I'd like to show you 3, 4, 5 places when we meet and make it worth the trip. By the way, is this the best number for you? Okay, so I found, and for those of you guys who don't know me, I didn't cover most of this in the introduction. As I started closing lots of deals, I created a small team of 2 or 3 agents. And for the next 4 or 5 years, we did lots of deals, 101 deals. We've never done fewer than that. Okay. After those 4 or 5 years, we opened an office on our own, and we grew to about 9, 10 agents. We upgraded to a larger office, and we grew to 130 agents. So I have worked with a lot of agents. All of those agents brought all of their clients to the office. We didn't do deals unless somebody brought their client to the office. I know it can be done. Okay. Most of those clients, now the real estate advice that I've heard is that you follow up with your clients, take them on multiple showings, take them out multiple times. Now I have found 90% of the deals that we did, and remember, this is the rental market, so it moves very fast. 90+% of the closings that we had were clients that we took out that day. 1-day showings. All right. Now the market moves so fast, it wouldn't even make sense to book multiple days, because anything that you see today isn't going to be available by the time you see the second or third place. So it's really important when you sell that office meeting that you're selling the intent to find them a place. And they need to be ready. It may actually be moving too fast for some people. They may not even be that ready to make a commitment, which is why during that consultation, you're going to bring them up to speed. Okay. The goal is a 1-day search. And even though this is New York City, there are some indecisive people out there. All right. The vast majority of people you will come across in life are indecisive. The way that I bring up the office meeting is I book the appointment. Okay. Then I tell them about off-market listings. We're getting new listings every day. You can't find online yet. Okay. Peaks interest, new. Can't find online yet. These are scarce. You don't have access to them unless you meet with me. Okay. I want to show you 3, 4, 5 apartments. Make sure I show you something that you can make a decision on. That way you feel comfortable, you feel confident making a decision because you've been around the block, you've seen some options. Okay. We're going to meet in my office in Midtown. All right. Now I lead with, we're going to meet in my office. Then I add new apartments, aren't on the market yet. Multiple apartments. So booking with me represents booking 3 appointments with other agents. Okay. And then I ask, is this the best phone number for you? Which 12 times out of 10 it is, because people are calling from their cell phone number. Okay. So I'm giving the negative of meeting at the office. Then I'm following up with 3 positives. And then a question that they're almost always going to answer yes to. Yes, this is the best number for me. Okay. So you gave a negative, and then you sold and sold and sold and asked them a question they have to answer yes to. If you do it like that, people will come to the office. Okay, take your own approach and then come to my desk and tell me your clients don't want to come to the office. By all means, do this business your way. You guys aren't the experts, I am. And I've seen it done thousands of times. Thousands of times. Okay. Our office was like a revolving door with clients coming in every single day. We couldn't fit them in the reception area. We're going to talk more about reception areas and how to use that shortly. I have 2 pages of office visit objections, if anybody wants them. All right. It's in the handbook that some of you guys might already have access to, but there's 2 pages of ways to deal with the objections to people coming into the office. All right. See, the office visit is designed to save you time. I want to go over the options together, eliminate anything that won't be worth it. That way, we're not wasting time looking at places that won't work. You mentioned you're coming from whichever area. That's about 11 minutes from my office by the train. I think the extra 11 minutes is going to save you 40 minutes or so per listing looking at places that don't work. So I know I'm asking for 11 minutes extra from the other guy, but I think it's in your best interest to save you time. You see how dealing with it, somebody not wanting to come to your office because they don't want to waste the time, this would be a good way to overcome it. I have 2 full pages of ways to overcome these objections. On the phone and in person. I want to give you guys 3 declarative statements. And they will work almost every time. They are, wouldn't you agree? Fair enough. Sound good. Now, these are very strong statements that when you say to a client at the end of your request, they're 99% of the time going to be compliant. Sound good? All right. I use these phrases all the time. After I make a statement, almost always, I follow up with one of these statements. You understand? That's another one. It's not as good as these, okay? But you understand is another one. No one has ever said to me, wouldn't you agree? No, I disagree. Okay, fair enough. Actually, that's unfair. Sound good? No, that sounds bad. No one has ever said that to me. Okay, but using phrases, it doesn't mean that everyone is going to comply with you, but it's going to increase. When you say sound good and you nod your head, people will agree with you. Okay, in person and over the phone. All right, let's talk a little more in depth real quick about following up. There's 3 follow-up steps. 1 is text. After you get off the phone, booking the appointment, you follow up. Great speaking with you. My office, this is the message. Great speaking with you. My office address is 224 West 35th Street, floor 12. See you Friday at 12. Justin DiGiulio, Oxford Property Group. Right? Now you're in their chamber of messages, right? They have your information. Next up, send a calendar invite. Right? I would say 80% of people that accept the calendar invites show up. Okay. But 90% of the people that don't, 75% of the people that don't accept your calendar invite don't show up. So when you send a calendar invite and somebody doesn't accept it, really good indicator that they weren't planning on coming or they weren't 100% sold by that phone call. So you might need to put in a little bit extra effort. Okay, calendar invite, really important. And then, of course, because you are building relationships for life and you want to demonstrate that you are a professional, you connect with them on LinkedIn. Does that mean you'll have a relationship for life? No. Does that mean they'll find you professional? No. Does that mean that you can have a LinkedIn account? No. But could it help? Yes. I have people reach out to me all the time through social media saying, hey, I didn't rent something with you. I didn't buy something with you, but 6 years ago, you helped me look for apartments, or 6 years ago, we connected. My cousin's looking to do this, or I'm looking to do this. Ghost hacking, the secret step to avoid ghosting. If the appointment is not the same day, let's see, what do we have on here? So you want to book same day appointments, okay? If the appointment's not the same day, then you need to follow up the morning of the appointment, between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, okay? But book same day appointments. If you're not booking same day appointments in May or June for rental listings in Manhattan, forget about them, okay? Or at least forget about that listing. All right. Send the text confirmation. Use their name in the text. Jason, nice speaking with you. You guys know when somebody uses your name in a text, have you guys seen this lately with iPhone? It says you were mentioned in this chat. That's weird, right? But it's an additional notification to bring to their attention. And then the on the way trick. Usually 45 minutes in advance of an appointment. This is how I gauge whether or not somebody's going to show up and increase the likeliness that they show up. I will text them, I'm on the way to our meeting. I'll be there roughly 10 minutes early in case you want to drop by a little earlier. Right now, what did I say? I've gone out of my way to make our appointment. If for some reason you're not able to make it, I've bought you a grace period to not be an asshole. I'm buying you time to not be an asshole. Okay? Because guys, if you've been in this business at all, you know this happens a lot. People ghost you. Okay? Now, they don't feel bad about it. Right? And if anything, then you start sending these desperate messages and it's too uncomfortable for them to answer you because they've done you dirty. You've bought them time to say, you know what, actually, I can't make it. Or made them feel bad and they were not planning to come, but now they're say, you know what, I'm going to be a little late. Okay, you understand how well this works? It obviously doesn't work every time. Okay, I tell people in this business, it's a lot like a stereo receiver. Remember, maybe not all of you guys know this anymore, but the old stereo receivers, right? You had an amplifier, you had the receiver, you had the cassette tape player, but there was one, the receiver, that had all these dials on. Okay, now a real audiophile is going to be able to hear each additional lever and the difference in sound. Okay, now you may not hear unless you turn 4 of them all the way down. You'll hear like the bass kind of disappears, so the treble goes up, right? But for most people, they can't really hear those things. But really, each one of those things makes a difference. Each one of those things does matter. All right. Now, these are some of those little things that if you do them enough over time, you're going to have much more success. It's not going to work every time. In-person meeting. You book the appointment. Now you must, before they arrive, confirm that unit's available. If it is not, you must let them know it's not available before they arrive at your office. At least 45 minutes or so, right? Now, obviously, you can't confirm that it's available on Tuesday when the appointment's on Wednesday or Thursday, because who knows if it's going to be available Wednesday or Thursday, right? But you want to confirm it just in advance of that appointment and enough time that if they choose not to come, they can turn around. So I kind of 45 minutes is that cutoff. Okay. Most people, if it happens to be rented, but you let them know, have already blocked off that time of day. Now, of course, you're not going to say, Joe, it's rented. Sorry, pal. You're going to do it by phone. Hey, Joe, I just called the super. He told me to call today before we came. He said somebody took the apartment. Really sorry about that, man. But I do have some other options. I know you were planning on coming. We can go over those when you're here. Like I said originally, I was going to show you 3-4 places. We can still see the others. Sound good? Sound good. Okay. Did it over the phone, right? And he was already coming. So he's not going to say, and there's not enough time, whoa, hold up. I'm going to stand in place until you send me pictures and videos. I'm not moving. Right. So that 45-minute mark is good because that's a good amount of time to call the super ahead of the appointment. Right. And you've given him enough time to not come if he doesn't want to. All right. But this is very specific, very particular how you're doing this. People do business with people they like and trust. Let's see. Confirm the listing. Create a showing list. You got to have those 3 or 4 other options. Now, people, their criteria, you will find when people sit at the desk with you, their criteria changes, right? It happens all the time, but still have a list, right? You may be updating that list in real time with them sitting at you in your office. But again, that's why we're having the initial consultation at the office where you sit in front of a computer or a laptop. And then you want to create the showing order. The order in which you show apartments is crucial. People make decisions based on their psychology. Okay. You want to have a psychological order to the apartments. Good, better, best, or bad, but in budget. Okay, at budget. Pretty good, slightly over budget. Right? Generally, I like to have 2 to 3 listings as a setup to the one that I really believe they're going to rent. So I have 2 or 3 that will support it. Right. Last week we had somebody that wanted to be on the Upper East Side, but they were open to like the East Village. Now I knew there was no way in hell they were going to rent in the East Village, but where did I take them first? Right down to the East Village. Why? Because if I just showed them something they like, they couldn't ever make a decision unless they'd seen the options in the East Village. So that's where we went first, so we could cross it off the list. I could tell them all day long, it's not for you, but that's not the same as seeing it with your own eyes. So you have to. Now, a lot of times also, and this has happened to a lot of new agents, and maybe this is my bad on the setup, but I usually do explain it in that initial interview. The client will go to that first apartment and it's garbage. Okay, because it's the least likely one for them. And then the client will say, you're a shitty agent, and leave them. Okay. Now, I do try to set this up and preempt it from happening. I will tell people that the first one we're going to see is the least closest to your criteria, but I want you to see it because it's the lowest price. If I just show you something at 4,000, right, and your budget's 4,200, 4,000, 4,200, you're always going to wonder what's cheaper. So I want to show you something at 32, 35 or so, just so you can see what's out there. Now, I don't think you're going to like it, but I think you should see it. Right. And especially if I don't have anything else, if I don't have 2 or 3 places at that $4,000 mark, I need to give them the feeling that they've seen options. So I need to show them that $3,300, $3,500 place just so that they're able to make a decision. Right. But when you go there, you already know they're not going to like it. And hopefully you've preempted them. So I don't think this is the one for you, but I do think you should definitely see it. All right, guys. At the office meeting, your phone needs to be charged. Ooh, yeah, nothing like going out and showing and being completely out of contact because your phone's not charged. Women who carry purses, you should pick up the portable charger. Okay. There's one. Oh, there's one in the bag. You all got a portable charger today. You get a charger. You get a charger. You all get chargers. Easier for women because you can carry a purse around. All right. But guys get at least a slim charger, especially if you're prone to having a dead phone. Right. That'll really throw off showings big time. Print any paperwork that you're going to need. You want to have that printed before they arrive. You have to go potty first. You should go potty first. Okay, before they get there. All right. When was the last time you were in a meeting with a professional and they said, "Oh, can I just use the potty real quick?" Right. Imagine the doctor walks into your room. It's like starts taking your vitals. Goes, you know what? I got to use the bathroom. I'll be right. Just one sec. Hold there. It doesn't happen at a professional level. So get it out of your system. Okay. Shoes, ladies. You know, some of you ladies like to wear very uncomfortable shoes. Now, I'm sure they're all comfortable. I know. Yeah, these $1,200 pair of shoes, so comfortable. Look, by the end of the night, shoes are in a bag somewhere. All right. But I know a lot of you ladies like to dress up and come to the office, wear nice shoes. But if you've got to walk 11 blocks from one listing to the next because it doesn't make sense to get on the subway, those shoes are not going to be comfortable. Okay. Make sure that you have the right pair of shoes on when your clients get there. It's really weird for you to be changing shoes in front of your clients. You want to be ready to go. I don't know what it is, whatever your ritual is, things you like to do. It's very awkward for your client to sit there while you deal with some winter jacket parka situation that you're brought in today, but now it's warmer and now you got to put it somewhere because you don't want to leave it on the chair because somebody else might need the chair. So you're going to put it in and then you just got to drink some water and then the bathroom. Get that done. When you're done with that meeting with a client, it's all about momentum. We head right out the door. Okay. It's got to be smooth. This is an art. You are a character in a show. This is a play. They don't stop the play, move some things around, where the audience is just like, right? They drop the curtain, move the things around. All right. Paperwork. What is the paperwork, my guys? All right. You guys are in luck. You have your packet here. I've attached, you Remax guys are really in luck. The last 7 pages, you have my paperwork. You email me afterwards, I'll send it to you so you can use it if you want. I have a registration form. This one is designed specifically for rentals. We keep them on a clipboard up front in the office. Anytime somebody walks in, we give them the registration form. What else do we give them? Agency disclosure form. What else do we give them? Anti-discrimination form. Nice. Don't give them that. We're not there yet. You're right. Who can explain the agency disclosure? Oh, this guy just left. Wow, he just ran into somebody yesterday that didn't want to sign this. Who can explain the agency disclosure form to me in simple and efficient terms that your client will understand?
Required by the state law.
You represent the client.
All right. Here's what you're going to say. And guys, this is clear, quick, and concise. So write it down if you don't know exactly what to say. All right. This form just informs you of which party I represent. This form just informs you of which party I represent. Now, if it's a buyer or seller, you would say the buyer, you, or the seller. If it's a renter, you would say the renter, you, or the landlord. In this case, I represent you. Anti-discrimination form. How do we describe that? I'm a good guy. I won't discriminate. Here's my promise. No. This form informs you that you have the right to make a complaint if you felt discriminated against. That's all. You'll sign both of these for my records. So I have proof that I presented them to you. As I said, they're required by New York State. If you want a copy, feel free to snap a picture of it. You guys got that? Simple, efficient, concise. Say it every time. Everybody will understand it. Okay. The registration form. The registration form is crucially important. It's not required by New York State. I require it. It's your protection. We give them to clients in the first instance they walk through the door. Okay. The way that I give it to the client is I say this. You just missed, no, actually, where did Matt go? Oh, didn't you just ask me about that? Yeah, I was just talking about you. I didn't even see when I looked over there. Sorry. We were talking about the agency disclosure form. Okay, sorry. I just thought you were sitting here for a second. The way that I give people the registration form. Okay, now we'll call this a little bit of theater. Okay, but it works. They walk in. No, I'm never standing at the front door waiting for them to arrive, right? Just like you go to the doctor's office, the doctor isn't waiting on your side of the front desk saying, I'm glad you're here. Please sit here, take this, fill out these forms. Doctor doesn't do that, okay? If you happen to have a receptionist, great. We will use the reception area. What I do is I hand them the registration form and I say, I just got to wrap up what I was working on. I use this form to keep track of what you're looking for. Could you do me a favor and just get started on it? I'll be back in 2 minutes. Right. The registration form gives us insight to what people write or they don't write. If you look at the form, it has name, date of birth, phone number, email. Do we need their date of birth? No. Why would we need their date of birth? Most people instinctually will fill that out. Are you going to buy them balloons or something for their birthday? No. What do we need their date of birth at this point in time? Now, on an application, we need it. Okay. But how they fill it out will give you instinct. Will give you insight into who they are. Okay. You will find that some clients fill out every single thing. They dot every I, they cross every T. There are no lines with blanks. Some clients print their name on the top, sign the bottom, set it down and wait for you. Okay. Do you think that we might be able to derive something differently from these two people? We're going to skip one of the future slides. The person that gives you all this information, I can promise you, the person that fills it out in full, completely, that person is going to be 10 times more receptive to you. The person that prints their name at the top, signs the bottom, slaps that clipboard back down on the table, that person is just looking for you to open a door and get out of there. Okay? So who do you have to work a little harder on? The second guy. Okay, but that's the insight that you get with the registration form and how they fill it out. Now, of course, you're going to sit down with both of them and go through the registration form, right? And the signature at the bottom says there's no fee to sign and register, only if you rent something in an apartment that we show you. Right, so you want to make sure they sign the registration form. Additionally, Dora, in that first meeting, we give them the application and required documents form. Why do we give them the application up front?
To make them be,
Well, they don't need to fill it out now.
To get them ready for the
to
next
make them
steps.
think that they already getting there.
We put the application in their hands so they have it. That's all. So when time comes, they're prepared. Next form is the required documents form. So these are in the attachment that you guys had, the last 7 pages. This is page 4 and 5. The required documents form gives them a list of paperwork they need when it comes time to apply. Now, rentals happen a lot faster than sales, right? They need to have this stuff ready to pull the trigger when they see something they like. So they want to have this stuff on hand. You guys should know these documents like the back of your hand. The documents that are needed by the document called required documents. Okay. Now is a good time to discuss them. When it comes time to apply, here's what happens. You fill out the application. You're going to have to submit these documents. Tax returns, employment letter, pay stubs, bank statements, photo ID. Some landlords take a deposit at the time of the application. That's refundable if your application's not approved. Sound good? You got to get that out now. So you want to make sure that it's not going to be an issue later. Okay. And if it might potentially be an issue later, you're going to notice it in their body language and behavior when you talk about these things now, because you're watching them. Just like you watch your opponent when they're playing chess. You're studying them, waiting for your spidey sense to kick in if there's going to be any issues. Okay, why are we giving them the standard application form? Back up on that. Now, if you guys look at this application, it says the Julio team. Is every landlord going to take that? No. When they see something they like, we want to get them started working as soon as possible. Even if it's the wrong form, them simply taking action and starting the application. All right? It's going to create momentum. Now, if they've completed the application, given you all the paperwork, you say, oh, you know what? The landlord actually has another form that they need you to fill out as well. They've already done 80% of it. Of course, they're not going to say, you know what? This is where I put my foot down. It's not happening. Okay. They'll fill out the other form, but you didn't have to have them pause on taking any action while you located an application for them to get started working on it, which is why you have this one on hand and you give it to them now. And you will be surprised from time to time, someone, and you never want somebody to leave an apartment saying, I'll let you know. But somebody who's left an apartment saying, I'll let you know, will send you an email with a completed application. Why? Because you gave it to them. They had it. And they decided on their own, now this rarely happens, but they decided on their own they wanted the apartment. That's nice. Wouldn't you agree? I know you would agree because it's one of the 3 declarative statements. All right, every office has a reception. I mentioned not standing at the front door. Again, it's a little theater. All right. You could have as much free time as a newly licensed real estate agent, like all of you. But don't be standing by the door. Okay. Maybe be a little ways away. If there's a receptionist, let them know you're expecting someone. But again, you got to play a little role in theater. Do not sit with them while they fill out the registration form. God bless you. Do not sit with them while they fill out the registration form. That's just weird. Okay, because you're about to sit with them at your desk and review the registration form. Okay, again, this is theater. Right? You could just do it once with them. Sure. But this is when I'm really talking about closing. These are the psychological things that make the difference, right? You sit next to them, you're going to make some small talk, right? So that it's not weird. But their brain is thinking, I got to fill this thing out. All right? Or you just sit next to them silently while you both just exist in discomfort for 75 seconds. That's also weird. Okay. Also, how are you the authority if you are so unimportant, you have nothing else to do but sit there like a dope? You got things to do. Fill this out. I'll be right back. I'm finishing something else up because I'm an actor in my own play that you're enjoying, by the way. Just trust me on this, guys. When it comes to going over that registration form, now you're going to sit with them at a desk. You're going to review the registration form. At the very top of it, you want to note their criteria, right? So that this information isn't lost in the middle of the form. Write it in big letters at the top. The price, the location, the space and amenities that they're looking for. 3 bedrooms, south of 14th Street, under $7 grand. Right. Now, if there happens to be it, now the rest of the form says things about pets or something like that. Now, if they happen to have a 64-pound Rottweiler, you're probably going to want to write that at the top so you don't forget. Because I've forgotten before. Nothing like getting somebody to finally make a decision on an apartment, then we find out that I forgot about their dog that they disclosed to me at the first meeting. Now I have to tell them they can't have the apartment. Right? Bad agents spend a lot of time doing things that aren't going to generate income. We just wasted a lot of time here. You're going to run through this. You're going to look for red flags. You want to note whether the move date is flexible or not. The majority of the time, your client's not going to find something that's directly within these 3 parameters: price, location, or space versus amenity. So you want to find out where the flex is on these things. This is your first opportunity to start building rapport with your client. Let's see. It's also a good opportunity for you to build respect with your client. Right? They're going to respect you because you are taking the additional time to work with them as the professional real estate agent versus Sally, who just met them on the side of the street, walked up to an apartment, right? They had an experience with you. Sally turned a doorknob. Okay. Write everything they say down if you think it might make sense. All right. It might be relevant to their search. You're not going to remember later. I promise you. Just like when I tell you guys taking pictures of apartments, take a picture of the outside of the door of the apartment because that'll always get mixed up. You're not going to remember, even though in the moment you think you might. Oh yeah, this was a kitchen with the white appliances. You're not going to remember that 3 hours from now. You really want to be finding their motivating factors for moving and the potential holdups as to why they may not make a decision. Maybe it's a roommate. The roommates aren't present. So how are they going to make a decision if the roommates have just as much say as they do? Right? So how would you deal with that? Get the roommates on the phone, get them to meet us up there. Establish common ground. Common ground is important because people do business with people they like and trust. Having commonalities is really, really important. Who's a big football fan in the room? You're a big football fan? Okay. Who's your team? Giants. You like Cowboys fans? You see somebody walking around with that Cowboys jersey on? Yeah. Oh, you're a bad Giants. You're a bad Giants fan. All right. You see a stranger with a Giants jersey on. Not going to be your friend, right? Yeah. I'm sorry. A Cowboys jersey. Okay. Absolutely not. Right. You're adversaries. All right. Now picture you're in Lebanon, right? You're walking around downtown. You don't know anybody. Everybody's speaking Arabic and French. Speaking Arabic and French. All right. You see somebody with a Cowboys hat on. Instantly, you have something in common. Even though it's the fact that you're enemies, but you instantly have something in common. And you be surprised, you may spend the remainder of that trip catching up with them, grabbing drinks after your days of exploring, maybe exploring together, even though you're adversaries on common ground, but you found your commonality. That's how powerful having things in common is. Could you see that happen?
That's happened to me when I go on vacation in Bermuda.
Okay.
Find one guy with a jersey.
Exactly. Let's see what else is on here. You want to be looking for red flags. I don't remember who the agent was. That's true. It might have been you. It was yesterday or the day before. We had a client who was in a $2,800 one bed in Chelsea. They were raising her rent. I want you guys to really pay attention to this. 2,800. They were raising her rent to 4,600. Okay. Now, I'm guessing she signed somewhere during coronavirus, even though she told us she didn't get a Corona deal. Well, look, lady, if you signed in 2020 or 2021, it was a Corona deal. Okay. She told me her apartment wasn't worth 4,600. Okay. So from her perspective, I know it's not worth 4,600 bucks. Okay. Her perspective. Now, I also know the person that moves in after she moves out is going to pay 4,600 bucks. Okay. But this is giving me insight into where her mind is. I said, well, what do you think it's worth? She told me at 3,200. Okay. So now I know she's paying 28. She thinks that place is worth 32. She's in a one bed. What she's telling me is she wants a studio in Chelsea. Okay. Now the version of her apartment on the market would be 3,200, which is over her budget. Okay. 4,600 is irrelevant, right? This is a $3,200 apartment in her eyes. 32 is not going to work for her. She can't afford it. 46 is never going to work. Okay. So she's going to downsize. So she's going to do a studio. So naturally, at $400 less than what she believes her apartment is worth, 3,200, she could get a studio, right? So she thinks a $2,800 budget for a studio is logical. Now, realistically, $4,600 for a studio in Chelsea is reasonable. Okay. If we found her something for 3,900, that would be a steal. Now, I had a specific listing that I had in my back pocket, and it was a one bedroom on the 5th floor. It's a very small one bedroom, but it was $2,850. In talking to her, I knew she will never find anything as nice as this. Okay. But she'll never rent this place because of where her mind is. So I told her I have a 5th floor apartment, bedroom won't fit a queen size bed. It's $50 over your budget. Are you interested? She said no, which was the answer I was looking for. You know why? Because I didn't plan to work with her. Because I used that qualifying meeting to decide this wasn't a client I was going to take on. Okay. This was a third category, bottom 35% window shopper, where why weren't they going to make a move? Money was the price. So I didn't waste any time with her. Right now, I could have brought her out and not mentioned it was a 5th floor, not mentioned it wouldn't fit a queen size bed, not sent her photos or video of the listing, said, hey, it's a new listing, which it wasn't on the market yet. You got to see this place. 2,850 in Chelsea. It's a one bedroom. I could have sold it to her, but I knew she wasn't going to take it. That's the purpose of this meeting, to find the common ground. That was somebody I didn't work with, but I gained the intel, right? Because I understood her perception of the market, right? And I just broke down the math as to how that works. You guys need to be able to do the same thing. That's what that meeting's for. Not saying we signed the disclosure forms at my desk. Now we can look at apartments because we did what New York State says we had to do. Okay. You want to find out what's in your control. Okay. Is it roommates that are in New York City that we could get to come see the apartment? Right. You also want to find out what's not in your control. Is it somebody's aunt who used to live in New York City in the 80s, and they're the family New York City expert, right? Because they paid $400 a month to live in the Upper East Side. Was afraid to go into Hell's Kitchen or Alphabet City or the Lower East Side or Times Square. Those are the factors that you're going to find out in that meeting. Okay, now it's a lot easier to do face to face across the desk than it is over the phone. So when you start going there over the phone, it's like, yo, where's this going? Like, how are we now talking about my aunt? I just want to see the apartment tomorrow at 3. Right? But you will be surprised how that person's aunt just pops into conversation at the desk. Right? And now you know that that's a factor you have to account for. Because the parents are going to be the guarantors. So really it's up to them what this person decides on, because parents are in charge. Okay. Who's in the parent's ear? Goofy Aunt Sally, who knows nothing, by the way. And it's in our control because we can disqualify Sally because she knows nothing, but we have to do that respectfully. But we have to know that it's something that we have to account for, which is the power of this office meeting. Okay. And this job gets a lot easier when you're paying attention to these things and you're aware of them. But if you're just thinking, I'm going to book the appointment for 3, go open a door and see if the person likes it, then this job's going to be really tough. Now, let's go back just to red flags. Red flags, bad credit, low income, roommates aren't present, pets. Is that fillable for you guys? Yeah, write those down. Bad credit, low income, roommates not being there, pets. Who's been in a relationship where you're dating someone, you want to take them out to eat, can't figure out what restaurant to eat at? Or you're in a relationship, you're no longer dating, you decide you're going to order out some food. You log in a Seamless or Grubhub. 25, 30 minutes go by. You haven't placed an order. Actually, you haven't picked a restaurant yet. Who sat down to watch Netflix and spent 15 minutes looking for something to watch? Who grew up before there were streaming movies and watched the same movie 5 times because that was the one that you had on VHS? Okay. You watched it 5 times because you didn't have any other choices. The issue that we have these days is the paradox of choice. The more options there are, the more difficult it becomes to make a choice. If you look at this hallway here, these are your apartment options. Okay. You need to help people narrow them down. You want to be crossing off doorways. Okay. This is why I'm always afraid. Yesterday, I was in the office interviewing a client. Another senior agent jumped into the conversation and was talking about neighborhoods. He's going, oh yeah, the East Village is really great. What about Hell's Kitchen? Have you thought of? I'm thinking, shit. Everything that you say right now is another door. The problem is the doors are apartments. Behind this door is a whole nother hallway that looks like this. Your job is to eliminate the options, help someone make decisions. Okay. You need to be, this is a visual for you to understand what options look like. Okay. It's the matrix. You're there to choose the best suited options to show your client. And you don't bring up additional options unless you're sure what you have is not going to work. Okay. Also, Tinder theory. All right. You log into Tinder, it's really difficult to end up in a relationship. You know, New Yorkers get married at lower rates and at later ages because there's lots of options here. Okay. Now, when someone's on Tinder, they have a never-ending supply of potential people to go on a date with, right? So they have unlimited options, right? No. Just because it's out there doesn't mean it's going to work. Same thing with apartments. Somebody logs into Street Easy or Facebook Marketplace. They have this perception that the options are endless. So if I don't like this one, I just keep looking, right? That's not how it works. Okay. Not all of them they're going to be qualified for. Not all of them are real, right? So when someone has other options, and you need to know whether or not they have other options, which most of them will. Okay. Oh, are you seeing anything this weekend? Any other apartments that you've been looking at? Really good way to find out if there are other options. Then you find out what the options are and work to cross off those doors. All right. On the showing, it's like a first date. You need to pay attention to them. Watch their body language, their comfort level. You need to get them to open up. You want to focus on honesty. You want to be honest with them. You want to be a real person, right? If you're being too salesy or you're being dishonest, it's really easy to see through. All right, we're going to go through these quick because I want to get to the fee negotiating here. Develop instant rapport. What is rapport? A lot of people think it's like shooting the shit. It's not. You're gathering information to use as ammunition. All right. Do you like to fish? Yes, I like to fish. What's your favorite fish? I like trout. Oh, cool. I'm partial to halibut. That's not building rapport. Do you like to fish? I love fishing. Oh, would you like an apartment where you could walk to the Hudson River? Something along those lines where you're using the information. Ask open-ended questions. You don't want to talk too much yourself. You want to ask questions that are going to get them talking. When people are talking, the person that talks more tends to be the person that's more receptive. Okay, you'd think it would be the other way around, but it's not. The person that talks more is going to, because you're saying less, everything that you say has a greater weight to it. Okay. You want to ensure that they're engaged. You're gonna get a lot more honest feedback from somebody who's actively engaged in conversation. When somebody's not talking to you, you don't know what they're thinking about. When somebody is talking to you, what they're thinking about is coming out of their mouth. Okay, so you got to get people talking. I've had several instances where agents have been bringing their clients back to the office to apply. Subway doors open, client stepped out and said, "Oh, something came up. I got to go," and got off the subway. Right? I'm just always like, what stop were you at? Like, it says they live in Williamsburg. You're on 72nd Street. Where something came up, so they had what? But it's usually because there was some catastrophic issue that the client was just uncomfortable with, or something, some decision, or the roommate didn't like the apartment and they were afraid to address you. But you didn't know what was going on because you were sitting there quietly on the subway. Okay, so you want to keep them engaged. You're going to find their true motivators for moving. Do not take anything at face value that someone tells you. You want to identify limited, so basically read between the lines. Identify limited buying beliefs, like I have to sleep on it. I have to, it has to feel right. That's a good one. It has to feel right. That doesn't mean anything. Okay. What feel right? Nothing's going to feel right unless the budget's $8,200 a month. Okay. Create a solid logical case for somebody to make a decision, and a solid emotional case for someone to make a decision. And then you must ask for the sale. Rejection isn't bad, but you need to find out what the obstacle is. Okay. I like to ask clients if-then statements early on in the conversation. If the apartment meets this criteria, will you make an application today? Right? You get their commitment early on. And if not, you want to find out what that obstacle is. Asking for the sale is something a lot of mediocre salespeople don't do. They don't actively say, "Do you want to take this place?" or "You should take this place." Okay. But you need to actively say, "Is this the place for you or what? Let's do an application." If they say yes, you got a green light. go do an application. If they say no, it doesn't mean they're not going to rent that apartment. Okay? No is not a red light. No is an invitation for you to ask why not. Find out if that is an obstacle that you can overcome. Tips. We're going to skip the tips for the interest of time, but they are printed in here. Okay? So you don't have to fill them out. All right, 2 pages ahead. Time. How we lose 80% of clients who tell us that they want an apartment. Time. What happens is someone tells you that they want it, and then you let them go home to fill out an application, and who knows what happens. Well, I can tell you, if you say, let's go back to my office and do the application, and they do, you're going to be able to see what happens. Okay? If you say, let's go back to my office and do the application, and they say, I can't, well, it's an indicator that something is likely to happen. Okay? But when you part ways with them, even if they tell you they want the place, 80% of these people will not close deals. Rentals are different than sales. Okay? What's your friend? Momentum. You guys know this. But the fee. But the fee. How do we deal with this? I like it, but what's the fee? Now, you guys notice we haven't even talked about fees. We talked about that initial interview. We didn't talk about fees. Talked about showing apartments, haven't talked about fees. Have any of you thought about the fee so far? I bet a lot of you, it hasn't even occurred to you. You've just been focused on what I've been talking about. None of you have been saying, but none of this shit works because of the fee, right? Were any of you thinking this all along? This is all bullshit because the fee is going to ruin this. Is anybody thinking that? One person? You've been thinking that the whole time? I'll bet most of you weren't. I bet none of you really even thought about it. I brought it up a little earlier, but it was not in your mind. Yet all of you, and I told you that was going to be the main thing we were going to talk about today, all of you feel that the fee is what's killing your deals. Those of you who are taking applications or going on showings. But none of you have been thinking about the fee so far. Okay? And if you do things the way I've told you to, most of your clients are going to think about the fee either. They're going to be so focused on everything else that you're doing. Okay? How do you deal with this fee question at this point? Because we don't have an application, right? I tell clients, our fee's negotiable, I'll make sure you get a good deal. The place I'm showing you is at the top of your budget, I'll certainly be more negotiable. If I find you something at $1,000 below your budget, there's a chance I'm probably going to ask for a higher fee. But I understand finances are an issue and they're a deciding factor. I'll make sure that whatever you see, you're getting a good deal. That's it. That's how you deal with the fee. Okay. Now, if you have identified an apartment that they like, and they say, but what's the fee? Then you invoke the Mr. Kim principle. Right? Now, this I've been using for years, but it was also in either Frederick Eklund's book or what's the other guy? Not Tom Ferry. What's it?
Right.
Ryan Serhant. It was in one of their books, the Mr. Kim principle. I didn't refer to it as the Mr. Kim principle, but I've always used it. Mr. Kim is someone else. That's all. And the deciding power is in him. What's the fee? Now, if I was an agent, I'd say, oh, I need to speak with my senior agent. And we can go back and talk with them right now and get this application started. Okay. Now, I say what I used to say when I ran a brokerage. By the way, where did the fee stop? When I was the owner of the company, the principal broker, where did it stop? With me. What did I say? You know what? I got to talk to the leasing manager, see if we can work something out good for you. Okay. Yeah. So, was it really up to her? No. Okay. But she was my Mr. Kim. So if you found the apartment, you got to buy yourself time. Again, it's a little theater. Okay. Little Wizard of Oz. If you don't like that, go get your accounting license. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more on the fee in a minute. Preparing paperwork, get all the paperwork from your client. You need that application in full, as much paperwork as possible. Now, they ask you about the fee, you're going to get them an answer on the fee, but right now we got to focus on getting this application in. All right. If for some reason we can't work out a deal, shred all this. But right now, I want to make sure that application is complete. There's no blanks, which, by the way, you as agents, before that application leaves your desk, make sure there are no blanks. And I see the dumbest blanks. People write emergency contact, John McHugh. How the hell are we going to find John? Right? They don't give you a phone number. They don't give you an email address. People give you their address. They go 123 Southeast 42nd. What city and state is that in? Okay. You need to look at the actual paperwork, make sure there are no blanks. Okay. You really need to go through the fine-tooth comb. You need all of their paperwork. Now, if there is some outstanding paperwork, then we can get it later. We can follow up after they leave. Okay, because they're about to leave, they're giving you the application paperwork. We're almost at the end. You can follow up with an email to each party individually. So there's guarantors and there's other tenants who are missing paperwork. You don't send one email with 4, 5, 6, 7 people on it. Okay, which, by the way, when you're doing 3 and 4 bedroom apartments, there could be like 12 different parties. Okay, what you do is you send one email to each person individually. That way they know no one else is accountable for this. The buck stops with them. If they don't do it, it doesn't get done. Right? Especially with guarantors, there's parents. You don't send it to Mr. and Mrs. You send it to Mr. and you send another one to Mrs. Why? Because they might think the other person will be taken care of. Right? So accountability. Once the application's completed, the client's going to have a sense of accomplishment. This part's done. The hard part's done. We found the apartment, did the paperwork. I can relax. They may not feel right though. Okay. Next step, once you have all the paperwork, that feeling, we don't want that to swell. All right. They don't know what it is. Here's what you do. This is how you negotiate the broker fee. You know what that feeling is? Something's missing. We're not done, are we? Something's missing. It's the fee. Now, if you look, the packet, the last 2 pages, what you guys have stapled together, these are the 2 agreements that I sign off on the broker's fee. Now, I have worked with thousands of clients. I have trained hundreds of agents and watched thousands of transactions because we did all the business up until 2021 out of the office. I watched every client sign deals at desks. I've seen this firsthand thousands of times. Okay. You have the application from someone. That's done. You give them these 2 forms. Now, of course, you're going to have them filled out. You're not going to be writing them in front of them because they're going to sense what you're writing. Okay. So you type it up, print it, run to the printer, set it on your desk. Hey, application's done. I just need you to sign off on the payment breakdown. This just shows the schedule of your expenses. First month's rent, security deposit, broker's fee. This is the total. If there's a deposit, we subtract the deposit. This is what's due at signing. Now, if you look at the form, I want you guys to look at it. There's a, in blue, slightly larger, italicized and boldened font, balance per person. Now, what's going to happen, and this works great if there's roommates, their eye's going to dart to that number. That number is going to be way more stomachable than the line that says total. Okay, when you're dealing with 3-bedroom roommates and the total moving cost is $17,000, you don't want them seeing $17,000, right? You end up seeing $5,300, whatever. Okay, because they're expecting to pay first month's rent, security deposit, and a portion of the broker's fee, right? That's what's going to stand out. So this is what you pay when you sign the lease. Okay, and this is the brokerage agreement. It's the second form you have here. This just says that you only pay us if you're approved. So if for some reason your application is not approved, you don't owe us a fee. Sound good? Now, 85% of people sign. They just signed. 85% of people. Now I'm making that number up. It might even be higher. Okay. Now you guys get destroyed. All right. Like a group of kids on a field trip with a drunk bus driver will run them over. All right. Like pigeons going through an airplane propeller by this fee. You get destroyed by it. So number one frustrating factor, you guys come to me all the time. All of my agents that I've trained and watched close deals, this is how we close deals. We focus on each of those small factors throughout the deal. We get them into an apartment. We bring them back to the office. Get all their paperwork. Now, when we give them these agreements, they have an apartment. They have a deal. They have something to lose. You guys know what aversion to loss is? People are afraid to lose things. At this point, this apartment belongs to them. Okay? People are much more motivated to retain what they have than they are to pursue what they don't have. Okay? I've been listening for a second time to this book on tape, the book called Influence. We're almost there. We're at the end of the rope here. It's a cool book about influence, about sales and persuasion tactics. He gives an example. So it's the new version. So I had the book. Now there's an updated audio book where people have contributed how the book has affected them, and they have readers' stories. One woman who's an attorney wrote in, and she said, I've adjusted what I've been saying to my divorce clients. Okay. What she would say is, I just need you to concede on this one issue, and then we have a deal. What she changed it to was, we have a deal. I just need you to concede on this one thing. All done. You see the difference? They have a deal. The other one, they have a conception they have to give up. A concession they have to give up, sorry. You see the difference? It's aversion to loss. We'll get through the next questions real quick. You have to get these agreements signed, payment breakdown fee agreement. You cannot send paperwork to a landlord unless this is done. Okay? You have to have this in writing. These are the terms of your contract. All right? Without that, you don't have a contract between them and you to pay you. When's it due? Is it due on approval? Is it due at signing? Do they have 2 weeks to pay after they move in? What's the amount? You had a verbal agreement on a month's rent, didn't you? Or is it 15%? I could have sworn you said a month. Well, look, it's a done deal. I'm willing to pay you a month. What do you mean you're willing to pay me a month? Right? When you have the contract, you have the contract. Okay. And I promise you, if you do everything the way I told you to do, by the time you get to that desk, once the application's in and you submit those forms to your client to sign, they just sign. Because they don't want to lose the deal. That's it. That's the end. Anybody? Any questions on this stuff, guys? And that's, by the way, 201 on the mark.
Really good.
All right. Any questions, guys? All right. Sure. Are we a hard out at 2, by the way? Okay. All right.
We got some leeway, like 205.
All right. We skipped 2 full pages. I said skip 2. It was like Monopoly. Do not pass go. But I was prepared. We got the break in there. I was not accounting for the break. So
Oh, wow. Pretty good.
sorry, go ahead. Okay.
They tell you, well, think about it.
Okay. What I definitely agree that when you make a decision, you need to be confident with that decision. I understand this is a big decision. I'm curious though. And again, I want you to be confident. What are the things you got to think about? Okay. We didn't do a good job because we really kind of fast forwarded towards the end here, but that is the identifying of obstacles. Okay. You get a yes or you get a no before you leave the apartment. Not I have to think about it, not we have some more places that we need to see. You need to find out what those reasons are to see if you overcome them. And you may not be able to overcome them. What do you have to think about? Well, I need to find out if my 2-year-old is getting accepted to the Upper West Side School of Science. She's 2. All right. But you get my point. So that's out of your control, right? So you can't focus on something that's out of your control. That's somebody that probably you're gonna let walk. We're not really sure if this is in the school district we want, is something you could deal with on the spot, right? And again, I'm pulling that out of, it could be one of a million different things. But when you're on the spot, what most people don't do is they don't actually ask for the sale. Okay, they don't turn the stove on and bring it to 10. Right, what they try to do is a soft, non-confrontational. We're going to turn it to 3 and see if you feel that you're ready to boil. Right, and most agents, let me know what you think. If you want to see some more options, let me know. And they don't do this. You want to take this place now, and I know we skipped over some of these tactics. The best close is this is the place. This place is awesome. Let's go back to the office, get an application into this before somebody else sees it, right? And that comes from you, the agent, okay? And especially in the rental market. It's a little bit different in the sales market, but literally the last 4 years, that's how the sales market's been. If you're not making a decision on the spot, it's gone, okay? And it doesn't matter if the place has been on the market for 46 days, which a lot of the cases, they haven't been. So something that I like to use on the showing is, if you like this place, and I know you just sort of started your search, but if you like this place, people who have already seen a lot more places than you, next person that walks in here, they're going to take it. So yeah, I understand you got to think about it. The thing is, if you're not able to make a decision on this, let me know when you're free tomorrow or this weekend, and I can find some other options for you. Again, aversion to loss. You have this if you make a decision today. So oftentimes in an apartment, or even when I'm doing that initial call to book the appointment, I'll tell someone, all right, well, if you can't make a decision today, that's totally fine. It looks like this one's not going to work out. But what I can do is I can find some other options for you this weekend if you're free then. What do you mean this one's not? Well, it's not going to last. Right? I mean, I could plan on tentatively it being available on Saturday, but it's Thursday. It's May. Look at some current articles, on the New York Post, and you'll see lines of people waiting outside of apartments. So I can't go there and put plywood over the door for you. It's just I can't guarantee it. So, and again, you're really playing to their aversion to loss.
The reason I asked is most recently I had someone who was like texting me and calling me, and because I was on the other line with someone, I couldn't answer, and they would get the voicemail and call again, and I was getting annoyed with the boop, 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 right? And so I showed him the very next day, and this was a call coming in at 7:30 at night, and then showed him the very next day. The apartment, you're not going to find any night at all, especially now.
And he still needed time to think about it. Yeah, because
it's
so here's exactly, here's the issue. Is because you thought he was so interested, you skipped to act 2. You didn't do all the theater in the beginning. You just thought he was that top 15%. He wasn't. He misled you. He was the first 35%. Okay. And he misled you into thinking that he was the top 15, but you didn't weed him out and figure out which one he was, because you got played by him effectively. He didn't let you go through your first act. Right. So that's all. And again, when I say you got to do all this stuff, because just like that stereo, everything, an audiophile is really going to know the difference. A professional is going to have that thing fine-tuned, right? So if you want to exist at a professional at this level, you can't skip this small stuff in the beginning. And if somebody is that motivated, they'll take the time to come to your office. They'll take the time to come and sit down with you. Now, either because they're that motivated, or because secretly maybe they're not, but you sold them on spending the 180 for lunch, right? Because you're a salesperson. You sold them on coming to the office. Nobody wants to spend 180 on lunch. Nobody wants to come to the office. It's you conveying the value as a salesperson, because you are licensed by the state of New York, not to open doors, but to sell. You're a salesperson, right? Any other questions, guys? If it's specific client stuff, we can handle that when we take a train back to the office together. All right, guys, cool.
We're just hear a little bit from Jamar Lewis, who's again responsible.
Let's thank our presenter again. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you for having us. It's all on you guys. So thank you.
Thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it. If you ever have any questions or concerns about mortgage financing, I'm here to help you all. I hope you got goodie bags